Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight, well, got a guest last minute. Originally I had this posted as, and I just scheduled the show this morning, as open lines, extended World Wide Web of Weird, because I have a ton. I still have a ton from last week we never even got to, and weird stories. I don't know how much we'll get tonight, because last week they had Josh Turner on from Paranormal Roundtable, and he mentioned having a number of guests on. One of them was Abe Sias. He has the YouTube channel Spiritual Encrypted Encounters, and a lot of extraordinary experiences from what I was being told from Josh. They're going to both come on tonight, so we'll have kind of like a special guest, open lines too. We'll probably, usually it's an interview and I open phone lines later. We might open up earlier for you guys to just kind of join the conversation with Josh Turner and Abe CS tonight. But we do have, like I said, a lot of weird in the World Wide Web of Weird. Got all that, and I'm going to talk a little bit here, too, at the beginning about the new YouTube membership and all that going on. So much to get to. Let's go ahead and get rolling into the show. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight, we are going to have a special guest, Abe CS. Like I said, last Sunday, Josh Turner was on from Paranormal Roundtable and mentioned having him come on. We just last minute got it all together because I haven't had a lot of guests. I have no guests really scheduled except for like Paul Wallace in March. I've had trouble finding guests lately. 10 years of doing it, I've gone through a lot of guests, and some don't do interviews anymore and want to come back, or trying to find new ones, and it's been hard. I've been trying to reach probably a little above my show weight to find some good guests. I'm a small show, so some guy, and it's a bad time slot, so it's not easy for me to get people on. I think I got lucky over these last 10 years with the amount of good guests that I've gotten, but it's been hard lately. So Josh Turner from Paranormal Roundtable is trying to find me some guests. Got this Abe CS tonight. I don't know a lot about Abe, just from what Josh told me, but it sounds super fascinating. I want to talk about, we do have now the YouTube membership thing. Josh mentioned it last week that he do it, and I thought I'd give it a shot and set it up. One of my loyal listeners and Patreons, Iziriana, mentioned to me, because she was going to sign up for it, that you have to be a premium member to even be a member for a channel. I don't know about that. If that's true, that's a lot of money. I don't know. If you're already a premium member and you're interested, you can become a YouTube member, where you get like emojis and that. I think the lowest tier is $1.99, and you can have access to the emojis and stuff like that, and then it's up to like $9.99. If I get enough $9.99 members, We're going to do private, for those members, ITC nights. I'm still going to do an ITC night for everybody on the show. I'm not going to make that just exclusive, but if I have like a smaller group, more intimate spirit box night for the premium members on the YouTube channel. Now, like I said, I didn't know about the whole YouTube premium thing. I hope that's not true, but that's what it seemed like from what Ziriana was telling me. And that kind of sucks. Yeah, I don't want you to have to pay for a whole year subscription to YouTube. I don't even have that, so I don't blame you if you don't. But if you don't want to, you can support us on Patreon. Patreon, we're going to do. I am trying to work on things for this summer for Patreon, for my Patreon members. We're going to try to do even an exclusive thing for them, where I'll give them a private YouTube stream. And we could do some ITC with our Patreons. I've asked them if they're interested in that, and I've never been supporting the show for years, and we're going to definitely do it. Well, I've been talking long enough. I want to get to my beautiful co-host, Jamie D. How you do tonight, Jamie?
Doing well, thank you.
Except for the chemtrails, killing you.
Yeah.
I was going to do it tonight. If I don't think we're going to get to it, but I have a very interesting story about a Substack this lady has, and who's like super mom and confronts one of these chemtrail pilots.
Really?
Goes up there at 1:30 a.m. in California, by the way. I'll send you that later. I didn't know if you ever saw me share it on my timeline, but if we don't get to tonight, I'll send it to you. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. Because next week I don't have a guest unless Josh gets me another. All right, I've been talking long enough. We got a lot of weird to get to, and I have to set it up here because Rob is running late tonight. Hopefully he's able to join us. Let me get that set up here. Anybody new to the channel? Yes, we do a new segment called the World Wide Web of Weird. And we cover news stories in that the first half of the show, and then usually we have guests or open lines in that. And usually Rob runs it for me, and he does gigs on Sundays sometimes, so I don't get him to, and I kind of suck at it. So bear with me. So let's go ahead, now that I think I got it, and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, I thought I'd start off with this, with the whole, everything getting, what they got, Doge or whatever you want to call it, exposing whatever, all these different things in our government, right, supposedly. This one I thought was interesting. I got the article from Futurism. The FBI just quietly revealed that it's had a real-life UFO office. A real-life X-Files, right? For those listening on the Paranormal Soup radio network, we are webcast streaming out live to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. But if you want to listen, I'll narrate as best as possible. And here we go. Let me get this share screen up. So my computer's running a little slow. I wish I hadn't seen that before the show started. I would have restarted. Hopefully everything goes all right. Come on. See, it's like running slow. What's going on? Usually if I catch that before the show, I'll restart. But it's being real slow. I don't like that. Scaring me.
That's how mine was. That's what I was trying to tell you before I came back.
Yeah. Some lag there too. Still a little bit. Sorry. Oh yeah. Yeah, you're clipping there. The FBI just quietly revealed that it has a real-life UFO office amid the Pentagon's year-long probe into the unexplained, unidentified. The FBI has been quietly running its own secret office investigation, so-called unidentified anomalous phenomenon. Let's just get this out of the way. That's basically the plot of the 90s television show X-Files, but buried in a new political story. They got their own problems. About concerns that the UFO hunting agents may soon be caught up in a purge is jarring revelation that such an office exists within the Bureau, the existence of which had not been disclosed publicly before, per this outlet's reporting. It was previously known that the Pentagon had a similar group known as the All-Domain Anomaly Research Office, the office that deals with UAP sightings from the military officials. There doesn't appear to be any other known counterpart in the civilian branches of government. In a statement to Political, the FBI confirmed the existence of the office, but refused to comment further, including to say how many members or how long it has been investigating the UAPs in an organized manner. Or is it just two agents like Mulder and Scully? Two people just to take all the calls and stuff that they get and just like, to log it all, and they really don't do anything. I don't know, but it is interesting. Now we find out about it just because there's going to be an audit, right? And they go crying to Political, don't shut us down. It doesn't really matter to me if they shut it down or not. It's all in secret. We don't know anything they discover or are doing anyways, right? They deny it and whatever,
well,
so why pay for it?
Zuckerberg supposedly has all the answers.
What?
Yeah, I read that on Wednesday.
Oh, guy looked pretty clueless to me.
Yeah, he seems to have all sorts of alien secrets.
Well, I mean, he might be one. That's what the theory is. Next up, UFOs are increasingly active in Japan, where the enthusiasm for them is. A recent interest in UFOs in the United States has sparked something of a surge of interest elsewhere in the world, with Japan in particular enjoying renewed enthusiasm for anything and everything to do with unidentified flying objects. For instance, in Hakui, if you say that, the Ishikawa Prefecture, also known as Town of UFOs, a recent UFO event, a local space museum, was attended by some 2,000 people, a considerable spike in attendance for the attraction, which had suffered a reduction in visitor numbers following a recent earthquake. Meanwhile, a UFO research institute set up in the city of Fukushima has been at the center of an unusual an annual festival that was seeing visitor numbers exceed 5,000 in recent years. I bet Fukushima has a lot of UFO activity. I mean, think about it. All across Japan, UFO-themed events have been used as part of a regional revitalization strategy, and there's even a nonpartisan parliamentary group focused on UAP research. There has also been calls to set up a dedicated agency for such investigation. This trend may reflect a sense of social anxiety, said the planetary scientist Juano Terrizano of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. With military conflicts and geopolitical tensions such as Russia's invasion of Ukraine and clashes occurring throughout the Middle East, the public is likely feeling uneasy about what might lurk above. Or they're like, come save us, aliens. from our bad leadership, right? There's a growing sense of tension and curiosity. Perhaps we are starting to wonder if something might come fly our way. All right, but the Fukushima thing, I mean, you got to wonder with all the interest it seems UFOs have to do with anything nuclear related. Look at what Chernobyl, the instances of UFOs reported there during that whole incident. Some people believe they actually help stave off the radiation from being so bad from Chernobyl. They have to have an interest in Fukushima because they're dumping tons of radiation into the ocean. All right, let's move on.
I just sent you the article about Zuckerberg, by the way.
Oh, okay. I'll have to find that one. Is he him like interview talking about aliens?
Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg has evidence of aliens in our galaxy, but covered it up, says an expert.
Oh. All right. Well, the next one is from my favorite YouTube channel. One of my favorite. Paranormal Roundtable is a good one. But Hidden Underbelly 2.0. I love the footage he gets. He's got great analysis. And this next one is an airplane pilot in Colombia captured remarkably clear footage of a black triangle UFO that appeared to be zipping through the sky. The intriguing sighting occurred on January 6th as the witness was ascending to cruising altitude over the state of Antigua. To the pilot's surprise, as they reached approximately 14,000 feet, the mysterious object came into view ahead of the aircraft. Since the sighting occurred during daylight hours, the witness managed to capture a fantastic glimpse of the triangle-shaped anomaly. Beyond the extraterrestrial hypothesis, various theories have been put forward regarding the nature of the curious-looking object. Some have suggested that the anomaly could have been the TR-3B spy plane or similarly a secretive craft. Meanwhile, others have posited that the peculiar triangulation may have been an errant balloon or possibly an advanced drone. To that end, while the object seemed to be zipping across the sky, many have noted that it could have actually been stationary in relation to the moving object. That's what I was going to say about this. This definitely seems like they're passing this quickly by, that it's stationary. So the balloon theory could be, but it'd be a weird balloon because it's very triangle. Here it is. See, he's flying by it, so it does seem like whatever it is just floating there, stationary in the air as he's flying by it. And it's definitely a triangle. I mean, this is 14,000 feet up, I believe. right? Isn't that what I said? Yeah, 14,000 feet up. That's pretty dang high. For, I mean, a balloon could definitely be up there, but that's not a kite, unless it's a kite, somebody's kite that got away or something that's flying up there. And it's pointing straight up.
Wait, how high up is that?
14,000 feet.
Huh.
It's pretty dang high up there.
It is weird the way it's flying like that, and that couldn't be a kite.
No, it's too high up, unless it was lost. But even still, I would be like that, just hanging
But
straight
the
in the air
way
like
it's just
that. A
blowing,
balloon, yes.
it looks like there's like tension on it, and it's like just flying straight across, like
Yeah.
not just free willy-nilly blowing.
Yeah, I don't know. This one's really interesting to me. Like I said, Hidden Underbelly 2.0 is a YouTube channel. They always got great, not just UFO stuff. He has all kinds of paranormal stuff that he shows, and he always gets really good UFO footage. And this one's pretty good. I don't know.
Wait, is
It
that
seems like a
flying
craft.
sideways? Or
Well, they're flying. It's pointing straight up, and I don't believe it's flying sideways. I think it's stationary. I think what you're seeing is the plane passing it by. Because if it was moving, it would have been like gone. If it was moving the other direction, it would have been like a zip past it, like a lot faster. The way that he's able to watch it makes me think that he's flying by it and it's stationary. I'm not an expert. Don't ask me, but that's my
yeah,
opinion
it's
on
weird because the way the clouds and everything.
that. It seems to me like it's stationary. All right, next up. Let's see. Does this next button work? All right. NASA launches Blue Ghost spacecraft to investigate mysterious domes on the moon. Missions will focus on solving the mysterious, how you say it, Grecian domes, sorry, which were discovered in the 1800s. Over the years, there have been a number of controversial claims concerning anomalous features on the lunar surface, and while most of these have turned out to be little more than pareidolia, the Grecian, I don't know how to say that word, domes are very much the real deal. Originally discovered in the 19th century by Franz von, how you say this name, Gruthisian? I don't know. Gruthisian? I don't know.
Just say G.
These perplexing surface features have been described by scientists as one of the most enigmatic locations on the moon. While the domes are more likely to be naturally occurring geological phenomena as opposed to anything built by extraterrestrials, their exact nature and origins continue to remain an enigma. Part of the reason the domes are so mysterious is that they appear to form a volcano that shouldn't technically exist at all on the moon due to the lack of certain resources. On Earth's Sicilic volcanoes typically form in the presence of two ingredients, water and plate tectonics, the mission statement read. But without these key ingredients on the moon, scientists are left to wonder, how did these domes form? Now, in a renewed bid to solve the mystery once and for all, NASA will be launching a spacecraft, Blue Ghost Mission 3, which will consist of an orbiter and a lander and a rover. It's currently scheduled for 2028. We are beginning to have actual hardware and are building our instruments, and now we know we will get them deployed on the lunar surface and what our rovers will look like. There's a lot of things you could look at the moon. This is interesting. Definitely look. But, there's a tower that is very famous on the moon. I'd love to know what that is. Go to the dark side for sure. I mean, there's a number of things I think they could send some rovers and, robots up there to take a look at if the aliens let them. I don't know. But onto that. Will skipping going to the moon help us get faster to Mars is the next story. Wonder who's suggesting that. Ian Whittaker writes, the Artemis program has been NASA's best chance to get boots on the moon again, but with the new U.S. administration taking guidance from tech entrepreneur Elon Musk, who is focused on Mars colonization, will that end up abandoning or pushing back the lunar mission? For example, there have been speculation that a returning U.S. president may cancel the Space Launch System rocket, which NASA intended to use to get from the moon to Mars, but in this approach likely to help them get to Mars quicker. The last human presence on the lunar surface was Apollo 17 in 1972, at least that we know of. So you may imagine that it should be easy for the U.S. to return. However, there have been plans to once again send people there since 2004, which have changed name with each incoming president until its current incarnation is the Artemis program. 22 Artemis test flight was successful. Mission to send an unmanned satellite around the lunar orbit and return using the new SLS rocket system. But Artemis 2, which will carry crew, is not scheduled for launch until 2026. When we consider private companies and other nations, this is comparatively slow progress. The first successful landing of a spacecraft on the moon by the Indian Space Agency, ISRO, took place in 2023 with Chandran 3, how do you say that? Which was an amazing achievement with a low budget. China launched its 2013 Chang 3 and Chang 4 in 2019 on the dark side of the moon. Russia has previously landed on the moon. Their more recent attempt at a lunar landing with the Luna 25 was unsuccessful, though. There's also future lander missions planned by European space agencies with Argonaut, a private Israeli company, and other private industries. Private industry is going to go there, that's for sure.
I thought I read recently, within the past month or so, that they indefinitely just canceled Artemis altogether and said they were done. They weren't
I don't
going
think
to
they're. Yeah, that's the talk, but I don't know if it's definite yet. They're going to cancel it. And my thing is, if you can't go to the moon and set up at a base there and deal with it, and yes, there is no atmosphere on the moon like there is on Mars, but Mars, atmosphere or not, it's still an hospitable environment. If you can't handle doing that, making it there, how are you going to make it to Mars and handle that? Like, I think we need to go back to the moon, and it's going to be, countries are all bidding to get to the moon, and I think I'm afraid of a moon war. I mean, seriously, people fighting over territories of the moon.
They're putting it on the endangered list,
right? Because there's energy on the moon, hydrogen, and that's what money is going to bring people to the moon. So I don't see why we would skip out on it, I think one of the reasons could be is that we just know, well, why bother? All these private industries are going to get there, and we'll get the technology advanced through that. But I think for the Mars mission, it should be the first step is to set up a base on the moon. I mean, I think they're shooting way too soon to try to go to Mars, in my opinion. I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. It's nothing against Elon Musk. I just think they're reaching way above their weight level there. I think we have to go back to the moon and have a base there before we can even plan on going that far out to Mars and doing that.
Was it 2030 he was first projecting to go, or?
I think so. I don't think that's still the same projection, but
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm all for space travel and research and spending our money on it. We actually don't spend a lot of money when you comparatively on other projects in this country when it comes to our space program. Is actually not as much money comparatively to other things we spend. I'd love to see more of it go to the space program. As long as they're not lying to us.
2 astronauts back home.
I know. Because it's just, most people say it's because it's just all a show. They're just going up to the upper atmosphere. It's all for show. We got all that. We're going up there. We have spaceships and a whole fleet up there. Space.
I thought it was weird they had Christmas hats at Christmas. Like, you guys thought you're gonna be gone 8 days, and somehow you guys are like posing in Christmas hats.
They got it out of the closet. It's like Christmas decorations I keep up at ISIS. They got a dusty old closet with Christmas decorations.
I guess so. I just didn't.
No, doesn't everybody, even on the ISIS station, right? All right, let's move on.
Supply closet.
And last week I mentioned this one. I didn't really talk too much about it, but on the front of the whole disclosure thing, I will give credit to Timberjet. He's still talking about it, still hoping to get some stuff. We'll see. They think this administration is going to be more cooperative. I have my doubts. I'm not trying to be political. I hate both parties. Sorry. But I will give credit where credit's due, and I think Timberjet's done a lot of good work. I think he's trying to get the information out there. I think he's an honest person about this. But he talks about in the recent interview about USOs. And to me, I think that's one of the biggest tells that there's something else besides our technology. I mean, maybe we do have this technology of underwater UFOs, but man, you're really talking about some high technology. There are drones that are built to go underwater and come out. I've seen the technology. You can find videos of it. All the major drone weapons manufacturers are working on their versions of this, but they're nothing compared to what I've witnessed and seen in these videos of people that I believe are honest people that took videos of these things coming up and out of the ocean. Lots of videos. And, whatever it was, didn't mind being seen because they're big glowing balls of light. And I've seen these things underwater. I mean, to traverse that medium between air and water, and to move as fast as that Tim Burchett is talking, 1,000 miles per hour underwater, there's a lot of things with physics there that are going to get in your way that we'd have to have some substantial technology that would push the limits of what we know about physics to pull that off. So to me, that's the biggest tell that there's something more going on besides just our military. I definitely think something was going on in New Jersey and all that as a PSYOP and part of the military-industrial complex. But I feel like there's still an alien part to this, something else. And definitely there is, you know, with the witnesses and stuff. So, yeah, like I said, I don't have high hopes for the new administration to give us much more. Lastly, I got just, again, I think is this another hidden underbelly one? I don't know. I'm trying to get the article up. No, this isn't. This is from about Little Colorado. Briller witness in Colorado captured footage of curious cluster UFOs that moved strangely through the night sky. The strange sighting reportedly occurred the evening of January 12th, the community of Littleton. According to the witness, the odd orb was spotted over the foothills between Lockheed Martin and Red Rocks. That's why I picked this one. There's a lot of UFO videos. I could show them all night. We could just, I save a bunch on Facebook too. But this one is right over the Lockheed Martin. And who did I accuse last week of being a big part of this whole PSYOP was Lockheed Martin. This is back in January 12th, like they said. And here they are just shipping these things up into the sky, I think is what this person recorded. So this is kind of last one of the night to see, I told you so, after last week of blaming Lockheed Martin. Like I said, Palantir is the new big boy on the block in the military-industrial complex. They funded this administration heavily. They're going to get a lot more of these drone contracts. I think other competitors like Lockheed and Raytheon are putting up theirs, and it's a bidding war. And I think this was a whole stunt that they did. But then again, there's a part of me that feels like they might have done it because something else is going on too we don't understand or know on the alien side. Maybe they are up there trying to monitor some alien presence that's making itself known. I don't know. Then you got the whole psionics thing with the Jake Barber interview I still find fascinating. We can talk about all that. It is kind of a little bit open lines, but we do have a special guest tonight. His name is Abe CS. He has the YouTube channel Spiritual Encrypted Encounters. We're going to have Abe on here tonight, and Josh Turner should be joining us in a minute as well. But we're going to go to our commercial break. When we come back, we'll have Abe CS with us. I think Josh will be joining us as well. And we'll also open the phone lines a little bit later in the show. You can join our conversation with our guests tonight, and Josh hopefully should be. But we're going to commercial break. I almost want to restart. I can't during commercial break, though. I'm like getting lag from my computer. We'll see when I come back. Hopefully, channel restart. Now I just got there. Yeah, I don't know. We'll be right back after the short commercial break.
Dating back to the pre-Christian era. The art of reviving people.
The devil god brings life to the dead.
No, please. No, please.
And death to the living. Necromancy, starring Orson Welles and Freeman. In cut may be parental suggested.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly named Mindless Robots, Neckmancer Lido in the Supernatural.
He has conducted conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States.
Emotional, street and say, no, what the hell is wrong with me? Silk shirt, hairy chest, enough aftershave to drown a household pet, but I did not get a woman. I tell them you are an ignorant fool. That is why I have teamed up with Medallion Man, the shop for medallion needs. Medallion Man caters to all levels of masculinity. For the strong, silent type, a medallion the size of a hubcap will say everything that needs to be said. Even singing medallions for the Casanova, who knows music is the food of love. Model trains, dollhouses, diapers, whatever your interest, we've got a medallion for you. Don't forget, every woman knows if you can't support a medallion, you can't support a family.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe, 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, I did originally schedule this show as an open lines, World Wide Web weird, but last minute, thanks to Josh Turner from Paranormal Roundtable, we did get a guest. I've been having trouble finding guests, as I've said before. We got Abe CS. He is the YouTube channel Spiritual and Cryptid Encounters. I don't have much else. I don't have a bio on him or anything. We're going to let Abe tell you about himself here in a minute. But we're also going to open the phone lines in a little bit as well, have a conversation. Josh, I believe, is going to join us as well. And, we'll let you guys join this conversation with a new guest tonight, Abe CS. But we got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get rolling into the show. All right, we didn't get to do a sound check either, so hopefully everything's working. Josh hops in here. I might have you guys talk to Abe for a little bit while I reset my computer. It's been lagging on me. I don't know. I just shut down the share screen to help maybe with that. I don't know, because it seems to start lagging worse, but I'm still seeing it, so we'll see. All right, well, hopefully we got it good here. Are you there, Abe?
Yes, brother, I'm here.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Last minute coming on to the show. I've been having trouble getting guests, and last Sunday we had Josh on, and he mentioned you. And I believe it was about a brouhaha, or maybe we were talking about a lot of different people and guest suggestions. I think yours was about a witch. Remember, right? He's like, you got to have Abe on.
Yes.
So, Abe, I was going to say real quick, we'll get into that. But for our audience tonight, can you tell a little bit about yourself and what brought you into this kind of field of cryptids and spiritual encounters?
Yes, my name is Abe CS. I'm originally from Texas. I was born in the Rio Grande Valley. And after I left the Rio Grande Valley, I joined the military at the age of 19. The first year I was in the military, went straight to combat. Was in the battle Medina Ridge, which is anniversary this month.
Oh wow. Well, thank you
It's
for.
been over 30 something years. I was in the
Wow.
Operation Storm.
Yeah.
But what got me into I have one son. I'm happily married, uh, and basically what got me into all this happened. An incident that happened when I was a kid. That got me into dealing with the spiritual aspect of things. That my life was never the same. What happened to me?
How old were
And
you? What was this incident?
it happened when I was 3 years old, brother.
Yeah.
Uh, what happened is my brother, which is he's 2 years older than me. At that time frame, it was in the 70s. He had gotten, he was real sick. The doctors from the U.S. couldn't find a cure for him. He
Yeah.
had high fevers. He was hallucinating, seeing snakes,
Oh God.
spiders. Uh, so the doctor said they couldn't do nothing for him. That eventually he was going to die because they
Oh
couldn't
my
control
God.
the high fevers. So one of my aunts went to seek other help, which is in Spanish we call them curanderas, which are healers. Some people call them medicine women. Some people call them witches, or like
Yeah.
deal with white magic or something in that nature. That's when my life changed. When the deal was that uh, if she healed him, that I would have to stay with her for I
Wow.
don't
You
know how
were.
long. I don't know the time
Yeah.
frame how long to stay with her. All I remember is this woman was from a little town right across the border, Reynosa, Tamaulipas, Reynosa, in Mexico, where they took my brother. I mean, my brother would see the snakes and spiders, and he'll be jumping on the bed and falling down on the ground, and like they were
Yeah.
all over him, and
I mean, I can
so
imagine your parents, as a parent, the nightmare that is to have a child going through something like that, and them not knowing or saying how they can help him, like doctors, and yeah, you're desperate to find help from anybody, but for them to go to this lady and her deal is, I will cure your child, but I want your other child.
yes, the deal was because we were poor. Uh, they didn't have the money to pay her. So the deal was that if she healed him, that I would have to stay with her. I don't know how long I stayed with her, but I remember her and everything. All I remember is when we got there, it was a little hut. Uh, the it didn't even have a floor. The floor was dirt. You
Yeah.
know, there's two rooms. The first room was like the main entrance, but the second room was where she would do the healings. On the ground, she had a hole in the ground with a fire. She had like a little altar where she would lay her patients, I guess.
Yeah.
And my brother, well, she as soon as she seen him, she already knew there was something wrong with him. That when he entered the second room, he didn't even get to go further. It's because she
Yeah.
grabbed him right there at the entrance while he was standing, and she already knew what was the matter with him. So she had grabbed his egg and started rubbing it on him from head to toe, and she was praying. And after she did that, she cracked the egg. Basically, what you did is transfer the wrong that was in my brother
Right.
to the egg.
I've seen this.
And when she cracked the egg, there was a little baby black chick with blood on it that came out of that egg.
That's
But my
odd.
brother, but my brother became better. He had like a limp, so many times that he would fall, and one of his arms he would walk like this because he was always falling down when he was seeing the snakes and the spiders.
Oh my God.
When she healed him, the little baby chick had like a broken leg and a broken wing. But my brother stopped hallucinating, and everything that his arm became better, his leg became better. Uh, the wrong, basically, what it boiled down to is there was I guess, some dark witches that that sent a spell to my brother, and
And
it
he's
was
just a
death.
child.
Yes, it was death. That's what it was. It was a black witch, and death was supposed to be his fate, the death of a child. But the medicine woman, she said what she was going to do is send it back to the sender.
Right.
So that's what she did. She sent it back to the sender.
Were they
For the wrong-
attacking your family for a reason? Like, were they attacking your family? Like, was there some involvement with your family that they were
Well,
targeting?
there's a lot of spiritual warfare down in the Rio Grande Valley. You get the borders. That's what people don't talk about. People don't understand.
Right.
When it talks about guarding the borders, you just don't know what's coming through the borders and the things that are already across the border. But it's not just in the border, because it's this. I guess you could say, like in the army, right? When you're a soldier, everybody's like in a town or in a state where you have friends all over the United States of America. When that's in some way, when it deals with a balance, there's wicked people all throughout the United States also, in which
Right.
if somebody's got a spiritual hit on you, or they gotta say your name, show a picture, they know exactly where you at. I mean, it's not that hard to find somebody nowadays through Facebook, you know, or they just put a picture and
I mean,
they'll find you. Back then, it was
the
different.
cartels are known for using this. There's a long history of them
Yes.
being associated with witches and people they believe had these kind of powers to curse and even protect them. So I mean, this goes back, decades and decades of this kind of thing going on. That's why I
It's been
wondered if, like,
happening
they
as
targeted
far
your
as I can
family.
remember, since I was a kid. So what happened? I seen her heal people. Stayed with her because I seen my mom and my brother leave. I was three, but I got a good memory.
Yeah.
Um, I stayed with her, and I would see all the patients she would bring in. Uh, some people she would pull out like barbed wire, pieces of glass, scorpions, snakes out of people's heads, glass. I think the most sick person that I witnessed. This person had ailments all throughout his body, where she literally put her hands. She was an old medicine woman. I know people want to call her a bruja, white witch. She wore bullets like in the times of Pancho Villa. She was
Wow.
already up there, like in her 90s. She was up there in age. So
Yeah.
they brought this man, and she started. You could see like her spirit go into the body, and she's looking at me, and I was sitting on like my little bed, and she's asking me if I'm seeing anything. So next thing you know, I see a dark shadow figure come out of a person where she's putting her hands to heal them, and it's what I call a DDN, a demonic shadow figure comes out of
Right.
them. Then three more come out of them. So they're all standing by the wall, and
Yeah.
she's asking me if they're gone. So I'm seeing them standing by the wall, and I'm pointing where they're at, and she starts praying something. Next thing you know, I see them leaving the hut. So she looks at me and she says, "Are they gone? Are they gone?" And I go like this, "Yes." I was 3 years old,
Right.
so I was involved with her, I guess.
So is this why she wanted you? Just so you could see what she couldn't?
I believe so. Since I'm a child, uh, I'm not living in sin.
Right.
The angels are around me, protecting me, in which I'm able to see spiritually the things
Children
that are
are
around.
the best.
So, I'm seeing these demons, leaving the hut, and it happened. I mean, she healed a lot of people. I don't remember how long I was there with her. All I remember is that she took care of me. Like she would make me corn tortillas with refried beans. She would take me to the market, and when we go to the market, all the people are running away from her, like they're afraid of her. But now that I'm older and I have my spiritual knowledge, it's not that the people were afraid of her. is it the demons or the negative attachments that were in the people were taking running?
We're afraid of it from
because
her.
they didn't want her to cast them out of them. That's what was happening. But
Yeah,
now
no,
it's
that's
a lot of
that's
people, children, grown-ups, just take off running because they knew that she had spiritual capabilities to free people from bondage.
But I'm sure a lot of rumors started about her too. When I mean, oh, that witch, she takes children. I mean, like I said,
Well,
that was, it's
and,
like
and
she treated you fine, but that would start rumors with people too. You would think.
but I think they were afraid because of her because of her capabilities of fighting spiritually
Yeah.
against the dark witches, warlocks, and that nature. Of which I'm going to get to the point of where how I told you that she sent the wrongdoing that was done to my brother to the sender. Well,
Right.
that dark witch, she was the leader of this convent. She died because it went back to her. So she was death upon my brother. Death came back to her because it went back to the sender.
Right.
So I remember one evening, I'm asleep and I wake up and I don't see her laying down in her bed, and it's only 2 rooms, and I hear her talking to somebody. So I get up and I look, and she's in the front door. She's got her hands like this, blocking the entrance. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So I go up to her, and I grab her by the leg. I'm small, and I look, and I just hear a woman say, "There he is. Give him to us now." And I'm looking, and this is what I witness. I see 6 dark witches, all dressed in black, on the ground. And then I see what we call in Spanish lechuzas, in which in English would be like harpies. 6 of them in the form of a lechuza, which is like a big owl. It was 6 of them on top of the tree, and they kept on scratching their talons, and they're looking at me. And the witches there, they said they were there for vengeance because what happened. She
They killed their
interfered.
coven leader.
She said, "Give them to us. If you give them to us, we'll leave you alone." And she said, "No, you cannot take them." Then I looked at them, at the witches, and I told them, "Not afraid." I remember telling them, "Not afraid." And she was trying to get me to go back to the second room, and I stayed right there with her. I wasn't afraid of them. They were chanting something, and the lechuzas, or they kept on making, or harpies, right? And whispering. So we fought spiritually from around 1 in the morning till when the sun start rising. Once the sun started rising, that's when they left. The witches left, and the lechuzas flew away before the sun rose. So we have fought all night against it spiritually. Uh, then right after that, I remember being in an outdoor latrine or restroom, and I heard somebody call my name because they were trying to take me. There was numerous times she would tell me, if somebody calls you or they're trying to give you candy or
Right.
something, don't go to them because they're trying to take you. So there was many that would try to come and bribe me with candy and stuff like that, but I wouldn't go to them. Then I heard a woman call my name, and I'm looking, and I look at the woman, but I can't recognize her. Like I said, I don't know how long I was there. And then she said, it's me. And it was my mother. It came for me. So whatever time frame the deal was that for me to be with her, the deal was a deal, I guess. And before I left, she gave me gave her little jars that she made with their names on it. She knew the future. She gave my mom some words of advice and wisdom. That's when I left.
Yeah.
She wanted me to stay there with her. She said she would take care of me, but I don't know, that environment of seeing all these demons and these witches.
It's like, yeah, I'm good.
I
I want to
wasn't
go home to
afraid.
mom.
I wasn't really afraid. I mean,
Yeah.
if I don't understand what's going on and I don't have the fear, and I always feel the presence of heavenly angels around me, so I really didn't have the fear. I just didn't know what the deal was, but you know, it's like when I came back to the States, it's kind of like they followed because they had that vendetta, they wanted vengeance. So what would happen in our home in the Rio Grande Valley, small town of Raymondville, Texas, every Saturday, I guess the day of the Sabbath, every Saturday, I could be outside, right, like around 10 o'clock, and you could see them flying around in the harpy
The
form,
lechuzas.
the lechusas, all black,
Yeah.
and they're whistling. They make this. They make this. I don't know. Y'all ever heard the shriek that they make?
I'm not. No.
Has
I'm
anybody?
curious
Have you
about
ever
that because I don't know much about the Luchusa. I've heard, Josh has talked about it. When I was really young, I had my the closest thing I can think of is me and my cousin, we were 4 or 5, and I could hear this, what sounded like a woman crying and moaning, and I thought it was his mother. And I don't, you're 4 or 5. I don't remember the exact conversation we were having. We were in this room, we're supposed to be going to sleep, and then this green head, glowing head, like glows like Slimer from Ghostbusters, kind of glow to
Mhm.
it, comes popping through the room, and it looked like the Wicked Witch of the West, the face, and it
No.
was a woman's face in torment, screaming and howling as it flew around it. Now my cousin remembers the green floating head. He said he didn't hear it at all. I could hear it in my head, I guess, is what it's hard for me to understand
Yes.
memory wise, 4 to 5 years old. But I just wanted wondering, like, because I've always been fascinated by the idea of, I'm Irish, and my cousin wasn't, from my dad's
It
side,
sounds
heavily.
like the tale of the whaler.
Yeah, like
You're
a
hearing
banshee.
the banshee, the whaler, the Llorona,
And so I was
what
wondering
we
if it's
call in
like
Spanish.
similar.
Yeah, it's similar to that. The Llorona, she goes after children that are not baptized.
Lady in White, yeah.
Lady in White, after children that are not baptized, she goes after men that are unfaithful. Also,
Yeah. It's a
so
great supernatural episode.
basically, she'll go crying, looking for her children. You can hear her moaning, wailing, and I guess you hear a woman crying. Anybody, right? The first thing you're going to do is going to want to help.
Right.
No difference that sometimes when the demons manifest to sound like kids, and they're like
Right.
you can hear kids crying outside or playing outside your home at 3 in the morning, and you're like, man, what are these kids doing out here in my yard? And you go out there and look, and there's nobody out there.
Yeah.
There's no cats, no nothing. That's what
Or
they
you have
do.
black eyed children knocking on your door going, let me in.
Yeah. It's
A lot of people have had that.
yeah, manifestations that they take. That's what they do. They have this many capabilities. They can change form, any form, like in
You
the
know,
blink of
you,
an eye.
you know what the Lechusa sound familiar to me is? I worked with a kid that was from Lebanon. And he described as a child seeing what he called were witches on brooms flying above his head. And he said it's clear as day memory of his, it frightened the hell out of him. And it was known in the town that these witches would fly. And I was like, wow. But the description, kind of the way that they sounded and the way that they are, is very similar to the Lechusa that you're
Yes,
describing.
and they make this screeching sound. I'm gonna make the sound. Some people don't like making the sound because sometimes things happen, but
Go
the
for
the,
it.
the sound the sound that they make, because like I said, I dealt with them because they follow me from
Yeah.
Mexico into the United States because they had that vendetta. They make it sound like this. It's like a screeching sound, and it sounds like this.
Well, it's like a snake thing, kind of like I don't like. Nope.
That's the way it sounds. It's a loud screeching
Yeah.
sound, and you look, and they're way up in the sky, like I would say, 150 feet in the air,
Yeah.
and they look huge. You could look like you could see the woman's face looking at you as they're flying. So when they're screeching, they're making contact with the other brujas. So next thing you know, you hear a screech coming from a different direction. So next thing you know, you have two of them flying around your where you live. Then
Almost like screech owls.
Yeah, they keep on screeching. Next thing you know, there's 6. So I will go inside my house and I said, Mom, the brujas are here, the witches are here. So next thing you know, we locked the doors, we got all the windows closed, and in our house we had holy palms with crosses on the windows
Yeah.
because they followed, right? They wanted vengeance.
Right.
So we're there, and then next thing you know, you could hear like 3 tapping on the window, and then the other window, we had like a lot of windows, so they're typing 3 times on the windows. And my mom's got us in a circle because it's like 5 of us at the time, my brothers and sisters, and my sisters are freaking out, and our house was on pillars. So then next thing you know, where you're standing, you hear like 3 sounds where you're standing. So you move to get to a different spot in the house, and then you hear more pounding underneath you. So after that happens, right? I'm just giving you how it was. You could hear like
Yeah.
whispers.
Would they be on the roof?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. You hear whispers, right? Like outside the window. And my mom's like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
they're here. And then you could hear them laughing outside the window, like women laughing. And then my mom would say, leave us alone. And then you hear poundings on the wall, boom, 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 pounding on the door, wiggling of the doors. Then all of a sudden you hear somebody running on top of the roof.
Oh no.
So all this then you hear the running coming inside the house, where something's running from the last room to the front room, and
Oh
it
no.
stops where we're at. So all these noises at once. Imagine all these noises: the tappings, the poundings, the banging underneath, the running on the roof, the witches with the
Chaos and the
all at
confusion.
once. All at
Well,
once.
the tapping of 3 is common in demonic cases of the mockery of the Trinity. It's very
Yes.
common to have like the taps on the windows of 3 or on the doors.
So we just were talking to this right now, and I remember my hairs are like standing
Yeah,
up
I
right now
bet.
because I'm remembering. So all this is happening. My mom is praying. We don't know how to pray because we're too young. So we just there with my mom holding hands, and she's praying, and you could hear them laughing outside, and all this activity. Dishes flying in the kitchen where an unseen force
Yeah.
is throwing the dishes, breaking the dishes, uh, forks flying, knives flying in the kitchen. We're staying out of the kitchen because there's something throwing stuff around in there.
Do you think they were even feeding off of
Yeah,
tarot
I believe.
like that?
Yeah, I believe that they were doing all that, and with so much, you have. That's what I always tell people not to be afraid because fear is a spiritual opening.
Yeah.
So they were using fear. If my sisters who was younger than me, they were
We're all just
scared.
children,
Yeah, we were
I mean,
children.
of course
So
you're
I
going to
had
be
to go.
scared.
Yeah, I had to grow up at a very young age because these things were happening every Saturday on the days of the Sabbath. It happened from when I came back, so I was 3, all the way till I was 11 years old.
Oh my God.
That's when everything stopped. I mean, they kept on coming and coming, trying to. They wanted vengeance, The I was already older, and I just got tired of them coming harassing us, right? So I was already in little league, so I was a pitcher. So I hit them with rocks when they were in the harpy form, that on the trees. They were huge. I say like 8 to
Yeah, I
9
was a
foot.
baseball player too. Yeah, I'd hit him with a baseball
No, I hit them with. We had call them
or a
caliche with
rock.
rocks.
Yeah.
I hit them so hard, right, that you could hear the thump, boom, and you could hear the witch go. I hit them
Yeah.
hard with his rocks, right. So here I am the following day on a Sunday at the grocery store, and I look and I see this old lady looking at me real ugly, but she's got bruises all over her body, and she's got like black eyes and and I look at the markings that she got, and it looks like the rocks that I was throwing.
Oh my
So
god.
in her true manifestation, right, her human form, she was all banged up from the rocks, but she was looking at me real ugly. So I could
But
tell who was the
they're
bruja.
not like human, right? It's like the witch you see that person always is the disguise. Like what's underneath is something different.
Yeah, the manifestation they take of the lechusa is just a manifestation, kind of like a shapeshifter skinwalker would take, right?
Right. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Witchcraft or necromancy, but their true self is, of course, their vessel. So their vessel was banged up by me, yeah, and until one day I remember I was out there and I'm telling them to leave, and they don't want to leave. I'm hitting them with everything that I got, you know. And I told my mom, I'm not afraid. I'm gonna make a stance, and I make my spiritual stance. And then I see my grandmother come because we had 4 lots, and my grandmother lived beside us. You know how you said, what if might have been something like a generational curse or something?
That's what I'm wondering. Like it seems like it's more than just revenge. Like they're attacking your family.
So my grandmother comes out of the darkness in between our homes, right? Because she hears me outside, and she says, "What's happening?" She said my name, and I said las brujas están aquí. Estoy corriendo. I'm telling them to leave. And she's like, you're not afraid of them? I said, no, I'm not afraid of them. Then she goes over there to the side of the house. My grandmother was already up there in age too, like 89.
Yeah.
She says something to him in a language I don't understand. Next thing you know, all the lechuzas that were there, they flew away. So that was kind of like the last time that I had to fight spiritually against those lechuzas that that were there. I believe that my grandmother knew something. You know, if she knew,
Right.
just said some words to them and they flew away. You know, I believe she knew things spiritually, or she might have been dabbling something for her to say something that wasn't in Spanish or in English, and they flew away. You know, she had to know something.
Well, somebody knew
And
something because they took you. The witch that you saved your brother obviously saw something in you. Besides the fact she knew you could see these things. Not every child's going to see these things, but she knew you would. So obviously she knew something. It could be something in your family line, that's why these. Because then what did they want? They wanted you after the fact, the evil witches, and kept coming after you. So something about your family line is involved in that. You know, could go back, who knows how long ago.
Yeah, I've witnessed a lot of things, brother. I believe it had to do something in some nature like that. I think my brother might have been maybe somebody said instead of. That's one thing about witches or dark witches, right? That they have family also, right? They have
Right.
children, uh, and if their time on Earth is over, right? Because there's a certain time when they make a deal with this demonic, these
The
demons.
devil,
They make
whatever.
deals, right?
Yeah.
That a certain time frame comes that is the time on Earth is over, and they come for them, which I call them soul collectors. Uh, which I witnessed something like this. So I can share that story with y'all.
Yeah,
But
I
if
don't want to
anybody,
hear that. We'll get to that.
I didn't mean to interrupt you like a minute
No, no.
ago when you were talking about them running through the house whispering and how it kept getting more and more intense. Would it just end up stopping? Yeah, you didn't get to finish that ending to that, and I'm curious, would it just stop and
it
get
will stop
quiet?
because my dad be at church. When my dad will come home, everything will stop.
Uh,
He's
in
coming
demonic
from
cases, they like to separate the father from the family. That's like one of the first things they want to do is get the
so
father out of the house. There's
so then we
countless
started going to
cases.
church with him, because we're too
Hmm.
young. When then we started going to church also. But yeah, when he would come from church because he would go to Saturday mass. The Saturday
Yeah.
mass is always Spanish, and then Sunday mass is English. So he would go to the Saturday mass, and that's when people don't understand that in the Catholic religion that there is, believe it or not, witches and warlocks that go to the church. They go to the church, but they're not actually there to worship Jesus Christ. They're there to worship what they believe in. That's how they built the Catholic Church. That if you notice, there's statues of different angels. They welcome our religions, you know, paganism or whatever. Uh, when they went to Mexico, well, in Mexico there was people that believed in a lot of other things, and that's how they will go to church. Sometimes you see the brujas up in the front, and when you're a kid, you just think, well, that's just a woman that's dressed all in black because she's a widow. You know, she's a widow, and they're up there with the widows. But then, if you pay attention, whether they're talking in Spanish, uh, and they're shattering something that's not even English or Spanish, then you know that they're worshiping something else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to think about the history of the Catholic Church, paganism. That was one of the first things that basically shaped the Catholic Church with Constantine, and then forming the Catholic Church and trying to incorporate the people that were not Catholic into the Catholic religion early on. But then that carries on to other cultures. It was the same in Mexico and South America. And I mean, look at the slaves that came from Africa over here, and how voodoo and the Haitian, and the Haitians, those how they formed their religions all around using Catholic ideology and symbolism within their. It's like a new religion formed.
Like the pyramids of the different, like the Mayans, the Aztecs, the so many different pyramids over there. No different than the pyramids from Egypt. They practice witchcraft and necromancy. That's what they were about.
I say Ziriana had a good question on this too. She said, "Could it be the death whistle from the Aztec?" You remember that? You ever heard the death whistle, the Aztec death whistle? It kind of reminds me of kind of what you were trying to mimic there.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I hear that's a noise that they make. You're not supposed to whistle back. You try to whistle. They'll come for you. They'll come and try to scratch your eyes, or if they can scratch you, they're going to scratch you. They'll come when you least expect it. I guess it's kind of like when you whistle back to them, it's kind of like you're summoning them. So then they have some kind of authority to come to you. So you have to be careful not to whistle. Do you think
everybody, when they're in that form, when they're up, like when you saw them as a kid in the sky, do you think everyone can see them in that form, or do you think they could be invisible to others?
They can be invisible. They can be they can be invisible. They can show a form of something. Man, I have so many stories for you of different forms that they can take. But yeah, they can be literally invisible, that you can't see them. But your senses, your spiritual senses, are going to feel them.
Right.
Your hairs might stand up. You might feel like they always bring like a magnetic energy to them, where your hairs are going to stand up, or your stomach might how should I say, start hurting a little bit. So that's when you go into prayer. That's a warning signal. Yeah, the warning signals.
I've had those. I've come across people that I knew before that I didn't have that, and then I'd run into them and know something had attached by that feeling. It's like a danger warning, Will Robinson signal. And have not had it very often in my life, but I've had a number of times that I considered a clear warning and got the hell away from those people.
Yes, I remember when I was with a curandera, I ran into a little kid, and this little kid, he said he was the opposite of me, and I asked him, when I was, I think I had gone back like a year later to visit the curandera with my mother. But there was this boy there, and he was like staking out outside her home. And he said that he works for the dark witches, that he's with the dark witches. He was with the dark witches to learn what they knew. that he was the opposite of me, and he had a lot of anger and hatred within him. But I had my love foundation, so he was telling me what he was telling me, but I didn't really pay attention to him. But nothing happened between me and him. But he said he was doing the opposite. That he was a what do you call it? Like an apprentice of the witches.
Right. And maybe that's what they wanted you for.
I don't know. All I know is that I fulfilled whatever time I had to be with her, and I was able to come back to the States. And which my life was never the same after that.
Right.
I
mean,
it wasn't because I'll see the things that I was open up to it. So when I came to the States, I could be walking down my block. There was this man that was sick. One of the lived down our street. This man was not all up there. He was mentally ill. And this man, when I was coming out of school, I was walking, right? And he's butt naked in front of his door, looking at me. And he has this demonic look in his face. Like I said, I could see spiritually. So I'm seeing all these dark spirits going in and out of him, in and out of him. And they will stop, and then they'll go in and out of him, in and out of him. And he's just standing there looking demonic and like foam coming out of his mouth. And you could see the demons that were in him, So I will go tell my mother, I say, hey, Mom, I think there's something wrong with the man. I think he's sick. He needs to be healed, stuff like that. But my mom would just tell me that he was just mentally ill. But I could see the demons
you could see it.
that were in him. Yes. Just like I would see them when the
like I said, not every kid's going to see that. I think that witch recognized that in you. She just knew that you had that ability. Maybe it's something to do with your family.
It's kind of like I remember being in pre-K, right? It was just a year later from when I was 3. Pre-K starts, I think, 4. I was playing at the playground, and from the school, from the brick, I see a dark shadow come out, and there's my friend's playing with me, and it enters my friend. My friend starts acting all crazy, like he's possessed, and he's acting pervertive. And I touch him like this, and I said, leave my friend alone. And the dark entity that entered him left his body. When he left his body, my friend became normal. Yes.
I've seen the changes in people. I know, for myself, I don't call myself a Christian, but I believe in the New Testament and Jesus Christ. But I also think the Old Testament's a lot of ancient aliens. But I believe in the spiritual warfare, that there is something there, and that they try to tell you. Jesus tries to tell you this in the New Testament, and that people are encountering these things. What was the town? I mean, if you're able to say that this witch lived in, it was. I'm assuming across near the border of Mexico.
The border is Reynosa. It's Reynosa.
I'm wondering because of the time frame, because there's
Reynosa, Tamaulipas, but Reynosa. It's right across the border.
Are you familiar with Adolfo Costanzo? I'm gonna say it right. Constanzo is the name.
Costanzo.
Well, the reason I ask is it was in a town of Matamoros. Morris, if you say that right.
I know what Matamoros is.
Yeah, he ran a satanic cult that was it was part of the cartel, and they found once the Mexican, I think, authorities got to one of their locations where they used to operate, they found a lot of bodies, sacrifices, and he worked with a witch.
Yeah, I heard about you know what Matamoros stands for, right?
Mm-mm.
Mata means kill. That's what it literally stands for, mata.
I 2 years of Spanish and I still don't know. I'm horrible. I'm not bilingual. I'm worse.
It's kind of like they have a lot of cartels over there, a lot of drugs, so where there's drugs, there's money, and there's gangs or cartels.
I mean, anybody look it up. If you want to know what he's talking about when it comes to witches and Satanism is documentable.
Yes.
This is one of those cases we know about, that we just know about, but how much was going on that we don't.
And then this has been happening for a long time. I know that it's important to secure the borders because there's a lot of evil people. There's a lot of cartels.
And there's a lot of children
that
missing.
if you say something or bring somebody's name from that cartel or a cartel's name, that they'll come for you. You know,
Yeah.
they'll take your head. You know, they're
Yeah.
all. That's why it's important to.
Hey, when you're paying $2,000 a pop per kid that our government's going to give you, yeah, you're going to try to get all the children over here. And we stopped doing DNA testing, for to tell if these people were the actual parents of these children. We stopped doing that. And then all these children are freaking missing. I'm not going to get into all of it, but that pisses me off is our U.S. government funding this, and then not like, and we don't know where the children are. Whoops. It's like, you literally just paid for human trafficking, encouraged it, and then you nerve to not know where the damn children are.
They know where they're at. A lot of them are dead. I'm going to be honest with you.
I mean, we were paying a guy named Tim Robbins in Guatemala as an ambassador, and then we put him in charge of as a drug czar. And this guy's literally working with the cartels in Guatemala, human trafficking children, having parties
like
there.
Coyote, what we call in Spanish the coyote. He's the one coordinating everything. Went to smuggle. They probably got all the connections on the checkpoint, on the borders, and on the checkpoints that they cross the children over that way, and they take them to the people in our own government. The pedos and the people that worship Moloch.
Big giant owl statue in Bohemian Grove, everybody.
I mean,
it's real. Go look it up. They're still doing it. It's an all boys club.
Clintons are part of that.
Yeah,
and
I mean
many others.
I think in America we have something very similar to what's going on. It's just much more. How I want to put this. So like it's much more known in in the culture of the people in the towns of Mexico. Here, it's not. It's not known. It's a lot easier for them to operate under the shadows, I think, here in America. Without any knowledge. Like, people just don't know what's happening here. Unlike your family knew. It's known. I'm saying it's known in the communities there.
Yeah, I grew up around all that stuff. Man, there's very wicked people, evil people.
Yeah.
They'll try to come for you. They don't care. That's okay. We survived, but yes, my life was never the same after that. It didn't matter where I went to. I remember I was in doing I think summer camp for the church, and I was reading a book. It was my turn to read a paragraph. I was reading the paragraph, and the door opens, and it's a nun. The only thing I know is this nun was coming from overseas to visit all the church or the Catholic Church, not just in the Rio Grande Valley, but all throughout everywhere in the United States. She was going from town to town. So I just seen this nun look at me, and I could see like a yellow glare in her eyes, in which I've recognized this yellow glare. Of all
yellow glare in the nun's eyes?
Yes. She comes and grabs me, drags me out of the room, drags me down the hallway, and throws me in the closet that's pitch dark in there, and locks me up in there. So I'm in there for about 3 hours, So by the end of the day, they open the door, and it's the person in charge of the parish hall. I go home. I tell my mother, "Hey, Mom, there's this nun that locked me up in the closet for about 3 hours," and she's like, "Oh, you probably did something wrong." So there I was during summer camp. She was there for a couple of days, and she kept on dragging me and throwing me in the closet. She would open the door like after 3 hours, and she would look at me, and I could see a yellow glare in her eyes, and she would tell me, "This is what she would tell me. Are you afraid?" And I said,
That's
"No."
what you wanted.
And I said, "No, God is with me." and she would close the door, and she would be mad,
There's a
and
nun.
the nun, right? So I would stay away from her, and I would see all the kids around her, and she's there with her hands up like this, and all these kids are around her. They're doing that the hokey pokey, or that when they do the circle thing,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
or whatever.
Getting really creepy image in my mind with the hokey pokey right now, but yes.
So I'm back just looking at her because I already know,
Yeah.
I can see what's within her. That she has a bad entity, an unclean spirit. So the head of the parish told me, all you gotta do is just tell her that you're afraid. And you see, that will be a spiritual opening. Spiritual warfare is very real.
And so he's encouraging it.
So, later on, I grew and I joined the military, and I see that a certain nun had passed away. When I looked at the picture of the nun, she's a lot older.
Yeah.
I recognized her, and it was Mother Teresa.
Hold on a second. Whoa. The Mother Teresa.
The Mother Teresa.
Oh, boy.
The
Makes
Mother
a lot of
Teresa.
sense. There's a whole line of conspiracy about child trafficking and Mother Teresa and a lot of evil crap that was going on. There's a whole line. Mother Teresa was doing this to you.
By that time, she wasn't Mother Teresa. She was just a nun. But she was already, before she became Mother Teresa, I believe. She was, she might have been a young Mother Teresa when I knew her.
This was, what, the 70s?
70s.
I mean, she was known as Mother Teresa by then, I would think.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. I will tell you this, and I don't want to insult anybody. I went to a Catholic private school. Mother Teresa always creeped me out whenever I'd see a picture of Mother Teresa. Something about her tells me, I know she's supposed to be all good and nice, but my inner instincts tell me that's not the truth. I have nothing to base that on at all. It's just my inner feeling when I would see her.
Well, I could tell you there was something definitely. She had a negative attachment on her. I believe that she was infiltrating the Catholic Church because she was a
I think the Catholic Church was infiltrated long before Mother Teresa.
There's a lot of people infiltrating the Catholic Church. That's very true. Like I said,
what did Satan say? If you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah, it was open up to all beliefs. That's what happened there. That's what all beliefs. That's how when they first started spreading the word of the Roman Catholic, they were to get people to come to the church. So they didn't care who they were. So that's how many people, many beliefs go. That's why the many statues.
They got a long history of not accepting many beliefs, though. Just ask the Cathars. The Catholic Church has got a history of oh no, heresy, goodbye, we're gonna genocide.
In the Catholic Church, I could be sitting in there in a church, but I would tell my mom I don't like going to church, and she's like, "Well, you don't believe in Jesus Christ?" I'm not worried about. Not that I don't believe in Jesus Christ, because I do believe in Jesus Christ. It's these things that are flying on the roof, these black shadows that fly from one side to the other, jumping into the people. That's because that's what I would see. Where they're flying around the roof while people are listening to the priest. Then one of those dark shadow figures goes down, goes into somebody, makes a person cough real loud to interrupt the sermon. Then it flies into somebody else, makes a baby cry. So because I was able to see spiritually, so I could see what was.
You think if it'd be a holy place, those things wouldn't be able to get inside to do that.
I guess they had some kind of opening because of they had many beliefs. It's just,
right. Well, obviously, there's people inside that church that are demonic, and I believe that for years. Have you ever listened to? We got to go to commercial break here in a second, but to Art Bell, old interviews with Reverend or with the priest, not Reverend, Malachi Martin. Did you ever hear any of those interviews from back in the day?
No.
You should listen to that. So he was an exorcist in the Catholic Church, and one of the most interesting parts of the interviews he's had with Art was when he talks about the perfectly possessed. And I've always been fascinated by that because in that he says, people be demonically inflicted. And, most of the time that's what he's dealing with. He's like, if you run across a person who's perfectly possessed, there's no ailments or no way you could tell that they were possessed. But if you do know, run for the high hills because they know they're possessed. They full well know what they are, is what he's saying. Yeah. And they walk among us.
Yeah, spiritually, they identify themselves to me. Like if I've seen it where it could be a complete stranger, and the stranger, you could tell that there's something wrong with them, but then the demon or unclean spirit that's in them identifies itself to me because it'll say something to me that only I know. So when it does that, I look at it and I say, I tie a bind and rebuke in Jesus Christ's name. Next, the person is normal. They don't even know what's going on. So I start asking them questions like, "Hey, can you tell me a little bit about
it's like
yourself?"
the walk-in phenomenon.
Yeah, so I'll tell them, what kind of life are you living? And I ask them if they have a spiritual opening of some sort, like anger, hatred, vengeance, or they're in a bad road, or something, unforgiveness. And then normally they'll let me know what's going on. So then I just pray for them. I pray for them. I don't tell them what was happening to them. I pray for them, and I pray for them. Ask them if they want to ask God for forgiveness for the sins of which they do. Because some of them might be on the bad road, so they have the opening to get spiritually attacked. So I try to tell them exactly what to do, even though they don't know or something was controlling them. I tell them what to do. Then I call upon the Heavenly Father to protect them and have the heavenly angels around them to watch over them. But they normally do not remember what happened to them.
That wouldn't be what, like Malachi Martin said, those people are demonically inflicted. But there are those that would be like Mother Teresa, who are perfectly possessed. And he was, he would know. He was, I think he knew there were people within his own church. I mean, he was very much alluding to that could be that too.
You could tell just by the eyes. If you look at the eyes, the spirit knows a spirit, basically. Yeah. So
the guy he named, I can't think of the name of the guy he named as perfectly possessed, was killed by his own wife. But he actually named the person. I can't remember. We're going to go to commercial break. I want to continue on this. I had my own experience with what I call a shadow person, or people would say is demonic. I don't know.
Sounds good.
When I was in I was 17 to 18. This thing pushed me to the brink. So, been a believer in evil, dark forces trying to control people, and fascinated ever since my own. And I, believe I was saved by God. We're going to go to commercial break. We'll open up the phone lines as well when we come back. If you have similar experiences to our guest tonight, Abe CS, call in and join us on this conversation. But we'll be back in about 5 minutes on our short commercial break. We'll be right back.
Conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Or you could accept the fact that the city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion.
What do you mean, biblical?
What he means is Old Testament, Mr. Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff.
Exactly.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID oojblandoo or jblandparanormalsoup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest, by last minute, thanks to Josh Turner, because this is an amazing guest tonight, is Abe CS. His YouTube channel is Spiritual Encrypted Encounters. I encourage you to go check it out, subscribe. You'll hear more in depth, I'm sure, from him than there's so much, I'm sure, we're not going to get to talk about tonight. But I am listening aptly, probably as you are, to this, Abe's amazing experiences throughout his life with witches and that flew above his house, attacked him. I mean, this is amazing experiences a lot of people don't know are happening. Not just Abe, there's tons of people that have these experiences that are, from different cultures or parts of the world that in America, people don't know. They don't know these things go on, that this is accepted in a lot of places in the world, that these things are real. I just don't think we're awake enough here to see it or know it. But I think all of us have had our little experiences to know what Abe is talking about is very real tonight. I know Mother Teresa, that's a big one. But go look it up online. There is a whole child trafficking conspiracy connected to Mother Teresa. And some really weirdness is attached to her. So not trying to offend anybody on religious grounds tonight or anything, never are. But we're going to talk about people's experiences, no matter what they are, and have open conversations. Speaking of that, you can join that conversation tonight. The phone lines are now open. Join the conversation, call in. But we got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get back to our guest. And I think we got Josh finally on here. Let me get him into the room with us as well. There we go. Hey, Josh.
Hey.
So thank you for this amazing guest tonight.
Yeah,
because we're really enjoying this. I was trying to remember, like, when you talked about Abe last week, like, which one is that? Because we talked about so many different guests that I need to get on this show, and I'm glad this is one of the first ones because this is really good.
Yeah, he brings it, dude. He's got some incredible experiences. when I recorded with him, I mean, he's been on the live stream too. He used to come on like all the time, but it blew my mind. Some of the things that we had talked about, some of it before a little bit, but not in depth. But when we got to record together, it really opened my eyes. Yeah.
I was telling him he needs to listen to the Malachi Martin interview
Oh,
with Art
yeah.
Bell.
Uh-huh.
You know, about the perfectly possessed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was telling Abe, I had my own. I want to make it very brief, and if anybody that's interested, Mike Rixicker put my story in one of his books, Paranormal Encounters, Volume 2, I believe, about my shadow person experience. Abe, when I was 17, I first encountered this thing in the woods behind these basically train tracks that crisscrossed a bridge, and then the train tracks that ran below those train tracks. And I was at a party out there and saw a 7-foot tall shadow figure, and so did one of my friends. A year later, we go back out there because I was having dreams about it, like it was calling me back out there. And challenged this thing, followed me home, followed my friend and his girlfriend home, tortured us for months, would visit us at night, would rip me out of my body. The closest thing I've ever heard describe it was actually from a fictional book, is Dexter, Darkly Dreaming Dexter, when he describes his dark passenger as the laughing one. The way he describes it is very similar to this thing because it had like this evil laugh. Mark Hamill's Joker is about the closest thing I feel like comes close to it, but it wouldn't hear it being here in my head. But this thing messed with me to the point where at one night I was being levitated up off my bed. And the third time it levitated me up, it had thrown me down twice. The third time it levitated me up, all I could do, I couldn't speak, but in my mind I was like, I'm so sorry, God. Please help me, God. Please, God, I am so sorry. And this white light came in the room. This thing screeched and was gone. But that white light came in the room, and I felt this just overwhelming love, compassion. There was like no hatred for that. There was no judgment. And it was letting me know I'm always there with you. And I'm never, I've run across these things since, and it seems like they don't want to get near me after that. What I found out is that spot we went to, we didn't know at the time, a bunch of children had, a bunch, not just children, but people had died there on those train tracks multiple times, hit by the train in weird ways, going back to 40 years when my friend's father, the night we were out there, had one of the parents of these kids that were killed turn to him and say, oh, my kids were killed out there. At the same time we were out there going on. It's a long story. It's crazy, and the synchronicities between everything that was going on at that time are crazy. But I've been fascinated, and one of the reasons I do this show is to give people an outlet to talk about these kind of experiences, because it drove me to the brink. This thing wanted me to either hurt people or hurt myself, and with the things it would show me, it knew all my deep secrets, it knew all my past, it knew everything about me, and I was a trouble. I had great parents and everything, but I had other issues, and this thing knew it, and it went after it, and it wanted to make me an evil person, or that's what I felt like. Mm-hmm. So I'm a believer.
It's one of the things that Abe talks about too, is the spiritual openings. When you
I challenged it. I opened myself up to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Abe's muted. I'm sorry. That's part of my commercial break. I'm so sorry, Abe. I'm so sorry. He's probably been in trouble talking, and we're talking over you. I'm so sorry. You're unmuted, Abe. Sorry.
Yes, I had a lot of friends that were teenagers that were being haunted by what you speak of. I had a friend that would invite me to the movies. We'd go to the movies. It was $1 to watch movie night on Mondays. $1, right? So we'd go, and I'd be walking with him, and I walk him like halfway to where he lived. Right, this is nighttime, and then he starts acting weird. Like something starts happening to him, and he's looking all paranoid, all scared. And I said, "Hey, what's the matter?" And he's like, "Leave. He's coming. And I'm looking, who's coming? You need to leave. And it's like he starts acting weird, like something is trying to take control of him. But yeah, I had a lot of friends that were dealing with this dark and shadow figures, unclean spirits. Had one that I would listen to music all the time, and he almost took his life at the age of 17. He tried to OD.
What kind of music was he listening to? Is that the relevant point? Like, what kind of music?
He was listening to heavy metal.
I knew you were going to say that. That's what I thought. Satanic heavy metal. I have had Reverend Bill Bean on here, and I'm like I was a musician and singer in bands, and I like a lot of different music. Never got into heavy metal, but I mean, he was like and I love Reverend Bill Bean, but there's things we disagree on. But for him, he thinks like the whole satanic movement in music started with like the Beatles. And there's people who can make arguments to that, to the satanic symbolism that the Beatles did and stuff like that. And I'm like, don't forget about the Beatles. I grew up on the Beatles, but it's in the music industry, and people say definitely in heavy metal.
Yeah, normally there's this unclean spirit shadow figures, right? They know your spirit, so they know what spiritual open you might have. They know your thoughts. You don't even have to say nothing because they already know. Spirit knows a spirit. That's how I'm able to tell when somebody has an unclean spirit in them. So if I see somebody with an unclean spirit in them, then I help them. I pray. I get rid of the unclean spirit. I'll normally see the unclean spirit leave the body. Sometimes they'll be looking at me. It happens to me randomly, where I could be at a restaurant eating. There was one day I was eating at a restaurant. I was waiting for my food. There's nobody sitting in front of me. As I'm fixing to eat my food, I see a woman sitting on the other table looking at me. It was a African woman, and her eyes are rolled back white. And I'm looking like, oh, here we go. I'm gonna have to rebuke whatever's in her. I mean, her eyes are just rolled back white. And as I look down and look up, she's gone. She's not even there anymore. I guess the spirit knew, or the unclean spirit knew that I was going to rebuke it. There was another time where I was hearing a girl. At nighttime, it was at this game room. She's talking to some people, right? It sounds like she's talking to a lot of people, but it's just her talking sound like she's talking to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So when I go into the room to see who she's talking, who this person is, she's literally talking to herself, but to other things that are around her. So I'm looking and I said, oh, she's being demonized by many unclean spirits. That's why I'm sensing spiritually. So as I'm fixing her to help her spiritually, she takes off running, runs a lot, across a parking lot, across a busy street, stands on the other side of the street, and she's laughing at me, and she runs into the woods. Because I believe the unclean spirits didn't want me to help her.
Right.
And took the vessel into the woods.
You say vessel too. That one of the things I've talked with Josh on, and makes me wonder, like that. Again, the perfectly possessed. That some people, these things are able to inhabit their bodies because of their family line with no problem. They're a perfect vessel for them. So, but most people don't have the genetics to hold that kind of entity inside them, so there'll be ill effects when they do get inside of a regular human, you could say.
Normally, the thing that affects generational curses from generation to generation is unforgiveness. That's the main key that they use to attack people from generation to generation. Is unforgiveness. So if you forgive, which is forgiveness is part of love, then any negative ties of any negative attachments are severed. So they can't attach themselves to you or attack you anymore.
That means the way I was saved was all about forgiveness. Like, I forgive you. That was the message.
Yes.
You're always forgiven. I'm always with you. And even the message was that the entity was forgiven.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to. Forgiveness is part of love, and they don't like it when I help people and tell, hey, is there? I ask them, you got hatred of some sort? They say, yeah, I have unforgiveness on so and so and so and so. So, well, I believe that's a spiritual opening, how they're attacking you. So I suggest you forgive those individuals, and and move on forward with life. If you forgive them, that's part of love, and you're going to get blessed with the spiritual gift discernment, and those negative things that are holding you back, they're not going to be able to hold you back or affect you spiritually, because you're making a spiritual stance against them. And I felt that a lot of people in that nature, by when they forgive. I'm trying to help on my cousin right now with this individual that he hasn't forgiven. And I said, just forgive him, so that soul is a man that's already passed away.
Yeah.
So that the spirit could rest, because if not, it's going to use that hatred and anger you have towards that individual
Brings the
is going
spirit to him, that energy, because it's unresolved.
yes.
It's just a good way to live, and we're all human. We're all suffer from our own emotions and how we feel about things, and it's hard for people to forgive trauma that's been done to them by others. It's hard. I mean, we talk about reincarnation on this show, and I think the hardest pill for people to swallow reincarnation is that I chose my awful parents sometimes for people that have grew up with people that were abusive, or I chose this. It's a hard thing to pick that, to understand and choose forgiveness over that. I mean, my father didn't want to have anything to do with me, and it's hard for me to forgive that, But at the same time, I didn't grow up in his shoes or deal with what he dealt with in his childhood, so I've tried to look at that to reach forgiveness for him. It's not easy.
No, you talk about the dark shadow that you witnessed. Man, I used to see dark shadows. Like I said, I was never the same. Uh, Summertime, when I was I guess 10 years old, I was sitting down in my living room. It's hot in the Rio Grande Valley. My mom's in the kitchen cooking, so I'm seeing something moving very rapidly around the house. This blur, and I'm looking, and then I see somebody in the kitchen window looking like this, and then they go to the next window and they're looking. And I said, man, what is that? And then they stand in the front screen door, because our house didn't have no AC or ceiling fan, so it was just big windows, right? Big screen windows, and you see, I'm seeing a form of what seems to be a boy looking inside, man, and I'm like, who's that kid? Does anybody know that kid there? And it was like, my mom's like, hey, you're not gonna go play with your friend? So it's like I go outside. By the time he's running around the corner of the house. And by the time I go to the corner of the house, he's already in the other corner. And I'm trying to catch up to it, and I could never catch up to him. So it's like I wait around the corner like this to see if he's gonna come around, but he never comes around. So I'm trying to look for him. Then I get tired because it's hot. I go inside, and my mom's like, hey, how come you're not playing with your friend? I said, I don't know. I don't know where he's at. He left. So next thing you know, I'm sitting in there. I see the same thing, the blur. It's a blur, It looks like a black blur, but then he has the ability to manifest to look like
a boy.
Like a boy. Yeah,
Maybe,
and
I mentioned the black-eyed children before, if it's some kind of manifestation like that.
Yes.
That people witness.
I
They're always like, let
that.
me in.
Yes. Yeah, I will witness that, and my brother and sister. So, I will see shadow figures all my life. It's something like the ones that I've seen, like in Elms Grove. Those are real tall. Some of them were 12 to 13 foot tall, very tall shadow figures.
I saw one that is the typical description of what they only once, but it was when I was sorry. I always apologize to my mom if she's watching. I was sneaking a cigarette outside, and this thing walked right up to me, and it looked like it had a kind of a top hat on, and it walked right up to me, and I was frozen in fear. Like it was telling me, basically, you can't do anything. I can get you anywhere. Is what this is. And I felt like it was not the entity that had been completely attacking me this whole time. Like it was its boss. I don't know. It was a weird experience. This thing literally, I thought it was a real person, walked out of my woods and walked right up to me. And I'm like this with the cigarette shaking. I had the ash coming off. I couldn't move. I was frozen. And this thing just walked away, walked in the woods.
So if you had a spiritual opening, did you have anger?
Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah, I was. It changed. My personality changed after the being saved. Because I remember my cousin Phil telling me I don't want to hang out with you because you're so dark and moody all the time and depressing, dude, to be around you. And I think I changed personally.
That's what they do. They change. They affect you in a way that you think you have a black heart, and that you start being by yourself. They single you out, and that's all.
Isolation is a big key. They wanted to isolate me. Yeah. It was like my mom found me at one point totally broken down, just a blubbery, crying mess this thing had me at. And Felt like I couldn't even tell her. And my mom and me have always been very close and honest with each other. And that was one of the few times in my life I felt like I couldn't even tell her something because she'd think I was crazy. And I didn't want to scare her, you know. And I remember going to a psychologist and not being able to tell him, you know, like, this isn't doing me no good. I can't tell him the real problem here is that I'm being tormented every night by this thing, that it, like, literally rips me out of my body, shows me things. Like, it showed me my girlfriend cheating on me, and she confirmed what I saw actually did happen. You know, the exact scene. It showed my band at that time conspiring to kick me out. It showed me their conversation. I found out that conversation happened. You know, like, it was showing me things like, look how awful a loser you are, and what these people think about you. And, like, it was just trying to knock and tear me down and isolate me from everyone.
Yes, I had a friend that was in a band. His name was Joe. His last name was Tool, but he been through a lot too, like that. Like what you're going through, he went through. He was in the military and he had his own little band, and he was going through a lot of things in that nature. You know, where you had anger, hatred, and there's a lot of confusion. Then, no, I left the military, but then I got in contact with him, but it was like a whole completely different person. Like he's really out there, man. Like lost. You know, I wish I could help him.
Yeah,
You know,
I've seen that with some of my friends that went into the military and came out not the same. And then I had one friend that came back from the military. He definitely, I think, always had issues from his childhood. But when he came back from the military, just feeling like a complete personality change. But he seemed was still like managing it. And then he moved into this house, and I remember him saying that he was having people standing over him in the middle of the night. My sister-in-law lived with them too at the time.
Oh, wow.
She had weird stuff, and they'd have like, we found after he had left photos on her computer of him using her webcam, and we still to this day. And I just found him on Facebook. I'd love to see. It seems like he's doing all right now. But he went through a really dark time, and I felt the negative attachment to him. And it's like, what do you say? Like, I knew him, I liked him, we were kind of friends through other people, my wife, but I didn't feel close enough to go, hey, you got an attachment. You know, like, what am I going to do? What I always do, I hate to say it, I'm not like you, I distance myself from these people. That's what I end up doing, because, you know, I know how bad these things can get, and you can't trust these people that have this going on. It's nothing against them, but it's very dangerous. People can be very dangerous with whatever is going on here.
Yeah, I remember being in school. It's a big. I mean, I got all kinds of stories about it. I don't want to, throw
You're
you
good.
off.
It's good, man. It's
but-
Paranormal Soup for a reason. We go down a lot of
Okay.
rabbit holes, and there's a lot.
Well,
I have my own experiences I share
my,
all the time on the show. So
I was gonna share an incident that happened to me on the midnight mass for Misa de Gallo, what we call it in Spanish, is the midnight mass for the Catholic Church, where they have the incense and they're burning. It's a midnight mass, so they're burning the incense, and I'm kneeling down, and they pass with the incense, and it was cold outside. I had wet my hair, and I just felt like a knot in my stomach, and it went up. And as it was going up, I don't remember nothing, you know. When I come to, they got me up in the air, like 6 men got me up in the air, and I'm kicking and, trying to get away from these guys, and I don't know what's going on. Next thing you know, they're putting anointing oil on my forehead, and they're saying that something attacked me spiritually, and this, right? But on the back of my head, I got a big old bump where I guess I passed out and I hit the back of my head on the bench.
yeah,
So they finally take me back to where my mom is, and she told me to sit there, and I'm telling her that I'm still feeling dizzy, that I feel that I can breathe right. The church at this time, they had those on the side of the church. They had the doors where you can exit out through the sides. Wooden church. So she told me to stand right outside the steps so where she could see me. So I go out there. Remember midnight mass. So I'm standing there on the sidewalk, and I'm seeing my mother with my father and my brother and sister sitting on the bench. Next thing you know, I hear somebody say, "Hey." I'm looking like this, and by the parish hall, there's a tree, a big tree. And I'm looking, I'm not seeing nothing. Then I hear somebody say, "Hey." And I look and I see somebody waving me. I'm seeing something dark, like a dark shadow, waving me to go towards the tree. But I stay where I did not move because, my mom was real strict. And, if I'm disobedient, that's a discipline time. So I'm standing there. Then I see something dark walking, comes walking down the sidewalk, starts walking and walking, and gets like maybe 6 feet away from me. When I'm looking at this dark shadow, it's not a person, just a dark shadow. He looks at me, he's looking at me. Yeah, I can't even see like no color or eyes, just a dark shadow.
Yeah, absence of light.
This is what he tells me. He says, "You hear the man talking in there? Don't listen to him. You see what's on the wall, which was a cross?" He says, "Don't believe in that." He says, "I'm your friend." Then he asked me, "Do you want to see where I live? I'll take you to where I live, to my home." And it's telling me these things. This dark shadow thing is telling me. And then I tell him, I believe in Jesus Christ. That's what I tell him. When I tell him that, I hear my mom say in Spanish, "¿Con quién estás hablando? Who are you talking to?" When I go like this, the only thing that she was able to see was the dark shadow going behind the tree. So my mom's yelling like, "Hey!" Grab me by the hand. "Let's go over there." She walks down the sidewalk where this dark shadow passed, and she's like, "I know you're behind that tree." So she told me, "Stay right here." And she was mad, and she goes walking behind the tree. This is nighttime, right? And "I got you." There's nobody behind the tree. I believe it. The dark shadow went into the tree. They might use trees as portals to take you somewhere else, right? So then she grabs me, goes around the parish hall. She's looking through the trash cans that are out there. She's looking behind the AC unit. We walk all around the block of the church. Wind up back in the spot where I was standing. And she said, "Holy Mary, Mother of God." But in Spanish, she said, "Ay María Purísima." That's when she knew that whatever that was something evil or something in that
Have
nature.
you ever got to talk to your mom about this stuff from your childhood? Did you ever get to have that conversation with her?
Not really, because I lost my mother at the age of 15 years old.
That's what I wondered.
A lot of things
That's so
that
sad.
were happening.
That sucks because I feel like your mom knew some family history. Like she was protecting you, knew you were targeted. Obviously,
She knew
that's
that
what
I
I
was
feel.
spiritually. She knew I was spiritually gifted.
Right.
She knew my
This
great great
is something in
grandmother.
your family line, I believe.
Yeah, my great great grandmother knew that I was spiritually gifted. Uh, uh, my great grandmother, she would burn incense, or what is that? Not incense. Not Palo Santo, sage.
Sage.
Because my mom took me there saying that something was happening because I was acting strange. So she turned on the sage, and her whole living room was full of sage, nothing but white smoke. And my great great grandmother, you could see the native in her. She said, "Whoever is messing with, said my name, identify yourself." Next thing you know, right beside me, there's this two large, what seems to be like werewolves or lycanthropes, but just their spirit, right?
Yeah.
Very tall, and they open their mouth and close. And when they open their mouth and close them, you could see the sage just move like. And then she looks at him and she says, "Leave him alone. You're not allowed to be around him or do any more harm." She tell him, "Leave my house." Next thing you know, you see him turn around and they walk out through the smoke outside through the front door. But my great grandmother, she was like a medicine woman also. She she uh she would heal also. But that's what I witnessed is how they could be. He had to take sage. I mean, I guess you could bring just about anything, right? Just so you could see the form for what he's really was there. But I was able to see spiritually, so I could see him, and she could see him too. But she had to use sage.
Right, to draw them out to see them. Well, I was curious about that because I've always been fascinated with, like Josh knows, with Dogman, Lycanthrope, werewolves has been a big fascination from my childhood. But also from my shadow person experience is that sometimes this thing would show up to me in my dreams as a big black dog. And I'd always be fighting it. And one of the times that I saw this after my being saved was our first apartment was very much haunted. There was all kinds of stuff going on there. I woke up to a woman standing over me telling me to get out. But there's one room we would never use. We'd hear noises in there, and just instinctively, none of us, we just would put stuff in there to store, but we'd never use this room for anything. And I think we just instinctively both got bad feelings from that room. And one time I was really sick with the flu, really, really awful, felt like I was dying, and I think I was really weak or something. And the shadow that I would see it once in a while. We'd had some experiences, me and my wife together, of this thing showing itself, like it would try to get near me but be chased away. It showed itself to me, and I rebuked it. I said, out of my house, you don't belong here. In the name of Jesus, get out. And it showed its face to me for the first time after all these years. And it was like a glowing red at first I started to see in the head form. And then it turned into this bestial face. I mean, I could describe it like a werewolf that I could see in that red glow. And then it went away after I rebuked it. But I'm like, is that its form? Is it like a bestial creature? It makes me wonder about, all the ideas of people that, say are shapeshifters, or people see dogmen, or those the perfectly possessed. They got this thing inside of them and they can change into it. Is it them using people as a doorway to manifest here? Basically,
they can mimic different sounds, different voices, and they definitely can manifest to look like you and me. So they have many capabilities.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the ability to shapeshift is a big part of this. Thank you, Josh, for the $20 donation. But yeah, obviously some kind of shapeshifting is a part of this. But it makes me wonder, you have these. What I've always wondered is, you have these people that witness these dogmen or these creatures like this. Sometimes I think that is just something crossing into our world, that those demons manifesting themselves some way for people to see them. But sometimes I wonder if it's actually the people that are perfectly possessed by these things transforming, shape-shifting into these things, because that is what's now inside of them. They're a meat suit.
Well, some of I believe what I witnessed is that spiritual hits, right? If there's a spiritual hit on you, which there could be, they come in numbers. They don't come in one or twos. They come in many. But, so long you maintain your faith in Jesus Christ, you can overcome them. But if you have spiritual openings of anger and the things that I speak about, then they can cause all kinds of chaos and havoc.
Well, look at society now. Everything's about the media is to get you to react with outrage and anger.
The fear factor,
and fear, right? I mean, our media is built on that.
Fear factor is a spiritual opening that they use when they had. I ain't going to say a certain shot came out. How many people were scared of that? And that's a spiritual opening for them to attack. Fear,
right? Right. I mean, it's a powerful weapon. It's used on us all the time.
What do you think about that, Brother Josh Turner?
We've talked about this a lot, and we actually did the show tonight. We talked about it, and there's a guy named Lucas right here in Round Rock who literally, I think he dealt with a werewolf. That's what I think. And I asked him about it. He really didn't know what a dog man was, and he went through the whole disbelief, even though he had dealt with shadow people and beings in a haunted house when he was a kid. And I haven't even talked about all those encounters, but we focused on the haunting of this werewolf creature that afflicted him and the people in his neighborhood. and they actually started kind of like being suspicious of each other. Like he's like, how do I know you're not this? Because
Right.
it didn't cross their minds that it was a being that was like always that way. They just thought this is a werewolf, and
Somebody
he thought that it
shapeshifts
was.
into it.
Yeah, he really believed that it was a werewolf and it was a man that was doing it because he thought that it was hiding in the woods and listening to him and his wife talk about how, if anything goes on, they're not going to be able to pay for it because they're broke. So then the next day, the air conditioning unit is tore up. So that night, this thing tore up the air conditioning unit, knowing that they couldn't do anything about it. It calculated it. So what he did was he had to put window units in because it's Texas. It's hot as hell. I mean, it's summertime. So of course, it's early summer, you have to put the window unit in there or you're going to burn up. So the thing knew that it could go in and it was probably going to be in the bedrooms. So it went to the child's bedroom and lifted the window up and showed itself to the kid, and of course he ran out screaming. Um, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes this kid was old enough to be afraid. Sometimes children are like, oh, look, it's a big dog, because they'll make themselves look softer than they are, like they're not evil. But this thing, the kid was already aware that there was something going on, so he panicked. He ran into his parents' room. Fortunately, the kid told his son, that he didn't think it would fit through the window. Like it was too big. So that's why it didn't come through the window, but it probably would have. And, this thing continued to cause problems up and down, his street where he lived. But it wasn't like a normal residential area because the lots were anywhere between a third of an acre and a full acre. So they were spread out, you know what I mean? And there was a lot of land in each lot. Now it's all like tract housing, around him. And his was the house on that, like when you came up. And there was a lot of woods around it. So this thing had a place to hide. But I think it's like what Abe talks about. Now, when Abe was at my conference, it was very interesting. Him and Bettina Moss both. She's another one you should get on your show. She's had a lot of encounters. Marquetta Jones is another one. She was in my book. I know, Abe, you were on the same show that I was on. I recommended you. We were on These Woods Are Haunted, and the producer of Travel Channel, what's his name? I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But Michael Sheehan. Good guy, and he got in touch with me. And, of course, I've talked to a few other channels, too, and given them lots of witnesses and stuff because I'm like, if they want to talk to you, so be it. I've given them lots of witnesses. And I don't get anything for it, But I think that more people that tell their experiences, the more people are aware that these things actually exist and they are evil. When Abe was at the conference, him and Bettina both pointed out pictures that they had taken of the woods behind their houses. And there were beings in those pictures. Now, some people would say this is pareidolia. I don't think so. When I was at Apache Pass, the guy that catered the conference, Abe, you remember Trey Felton?
Yes.
Barbecue guy? Yeah. So he lives right there by Apache Pass, and he's a Bigfoot hunter. He believes in Bigfoot. He's seen things. So he recommended it. So I went to Apache Pass at his recommendation with my wife and my brother on Thanksgiving. And I had a kidney stone. It was terrible. But I think that pain, though, does do something. It brings them towards you.
Right, like
And
I was
I went
sick,
there.
and this thing could get to me,
Mm-hmm. It's a spiritual opening, like Abe's always talking about. And so I do follow Abe's system of the Love Foundation. That dude taught me some things, about myself and about really forgiving, And so it hit home to me that when you don't forgive, you have a spiritual opening. That's one of the things that my guest was talking about tonight. I told him, I said, you hated your sister-in-law real bad, one of them. And I told him, I said, that hate, he goes, I hated her. He goes, I hated her guts. She was a sociopath. She had stolen from my wife. She almost got his wife killed. So he really hated her. Like he hated her
Got
guts.
the reasons.
Yeah, he had the reasons, but you got to let it go because if you don't, you're going down this bad path. It's like a car wreck. You got to let God take the wheel, man. You got to back off or you're going to wreck, you're going to crash and burn. And one of the things that we talked about, I told him, like I'm telling y'all right now, about what I saw at Apache Pass. Because I said this thing could be spiritual, and I told him what we had, taken a picture. My wife snapped a photo of the trees. It was real pretty, it's fall, and it's real pretty. And she took some pictures, and in that picture, she's like, look at what I saw. And right there in these beautiful, fall leaves, there's this head. And I think she posted this in our group, one of our groups, and you could see it looks like a freaking werewolf. That's the same thing that Abe took pictures of. Abe showed me one picture, and I think you showed it at the conference. And we had 600 people at that conference. And when you look at that picture, you can see there is clearly a wolf's head in that picture. I've seen that multiple times from witnesses. They've sent me pictures. Only a few times do I ever put them on the show because people start talking crap because it's pareidolia, blah, blah, blah. But with Abe's photo and with Bettina's photo, both of those clearly to me showed, and the one that my wife took, a wolf-headed shadow-looking being there in the trees. And so I told Luke, I said, Lucas, this thing could have been in a spiritual form, but it manifests as a physical thing. I don't know if werewolf is the correct term, but he seemed to think that it was a man. He really believed it because of the calculating nature of it. But demons are
Right.
calculating too.
True.
Yeah.
True, but it's the way that it seems. I just think the way sometimes these things are cited and all that. That sometimes they could be things crossing over from another dimension that people are seeing, but sometimes I feel like the way they haunt locations or certain locations that it could be a person. That's their spot, whether they go out for their to change. That these things manifest when they have the perfect vessel for it, where we are the gateway or the doorway for these things to manifest their true form here, and they do it through a person. That would be the Lankrathrope, the transformation, because, you go back to the history of it, and, people were making belts. They could bring on the spirit of that wolf, and transform. And there's other cultures that were doing similar things, where they have traditions where you bring in these spirits to transform.
But if there's unseen forces, right, or demonic forces, unclean spirits, if they know your spirit, they know what's in your mind. I get a story. My little Chihuahua dog was barking one night in the restroom, and normally when he will bark, it's because somebody's outside. He's that good.
They're little good
So I
alarm
went
rings.
outside my home to look, and I don't see nothing out there, no animals or anything. They just barking and barking. And then I look across the street to my neighbor's home, and I see somebody sitting on the picnic table. On a bench. It's nighttime. So I go to the gate and I'm looking because he's got his light on, and I could see somebody sitting there. The female gets up, she comes down the steps, and she stands near the street, and she's looking at me. She's got a smile on her face. You talk about the smiley man or the smiley dark shadow figure. Well, she's smiling at me, and I'm looking at her, and I'm saying to myself, this is like 2015. I'm saying to myself, there's no way. There's no way. So I'll do the sign of the cross and I start praying. So the woman goes in between. The reason I'm saying there's just no way is because what I'm witnessing is a manifestation of my mother. But there's no way it could be my mother. It's 2015. My mother passed away in 1985. Right. So he took her form, but he took a manifestation of her, but I could see the true form within the manifestation. So I started praying against it, and it went to the opposite street, and it's looking at me, and it's walking. I'm walking parallel on the street. It's on the opposite street, but then it just disappears, like in a puff of smoke disappears. But I fought against it spiritually, but you could see that it wasn't truly my mother, it was just a manifestation. But I could see the unclean spirit in it, but what was behind the disguise. Maybe there would be a better way to say it, a disguise, because they can mimic. They can mimic their voices.
Very common, yeah.
Yeah. One of the beings that we get the stories about mimicking, besides the dog man, is the goat man. A lot of times people, when they talk about the goat man, it mimics things. I had a friend, she was in a trailer, and they lived out in the trailer in Arizona. And well, she's a friend, like I guess she's an acquaintance. She's an ex-girlfriend of a friend of mine. And me and him lost touch. We quit talking, and me and her stayed friends. And then I actually became friends with her new boyfriend and my friend. Then he came back out of nowhere and was like, "Why are you friends with them?" I'm like, "You quit talking to me, man." Whatever. But anyway, I met her through him. But she was a nice person, and she was quite a bit older than him. So, anyways, she got with this guy who was really like he was troublemaker. He was a troublemaker, and he started messing with stuff. And he was like, "Hey, let's play with a Ouija board." He wanted to conjure her grandmother, who was psychic. He wanted to ask her
Yeah.
how it was on the other
You're
side.
gonna have a bad time? Yeah.
Yeah. And so he got with the bad time board, and they had a bad time. And then she's like, after that, she started dating this other guy who brought her back to reality, got her off of drugs and got her to quit, whatever. And I'm not talking about reefer madness. I'm talking about she was doing some bad stuff,
Hardcore.
hardcore drugs. And she said it wasn't a real long time, but it doesn't take long to destroy your life with that. And so she was doing, a lot of drugs. And this guy brought her back, got her cleaned up, and he was actually a counselor, and he had talked her, down from the ledge, And so one night they're in their trailer and they hear her ex-boyfriend talking outside. She still had feelings for this guy. And he was out there. This was before when they were just starting to date. And she thought he was there meddling. But then he started talking about, I'm hurting, help me. And he appealed to her, whatever. And so she went out there with her nurturing nature to help him, and this guy that was dating her at that time, he was a counselor. I was like, what's he going to do, So they go out there and they encounter this being that they couldn't see from the waist down. It was just smoke. But the waist up was like a black goat man looking thing with these weird looking horns. And they ran back inside, and then it plagued her I'm going to talk about her story eventually. I got a lot of other stuff ahead, but she reached out to me again back in December. And so that was the last time that I'd spoken to her, but she had seen it back at the end of October was when she saw it a few days before Halloween. And it's been going on for about 2 years now, off and on.
What state does she
Arizona.
Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona. And I think a lot of it too could be the area too.
The skinwalker, man. That's what it sounded like to me.
Right.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that a skinwalker has to be something that looks like a wolf-like creature. It doesn't.
No.
It doesn't have
It's
to
a
be.
shapeshifter. They can take on a lot of different forms.
Any form, animal, a person. Shoot, it could take a form of a tree. Mother Nature itself.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't even know
James
it's
Statke says this, isn't there Krampus stories too with the black smoke? Yes. And Krampus, oddly enough, looks a lot like a goat man. He does.
Oh,
He
yeah.
has the
No,
horns.
totally.
Yeah. He looks like a goat man. And I wonder about that because when we talked about on the Christmas episode, we did a Krampus one a few years ago.
Yeah, I remember.
And I didn't really have any more stories to talk about from it. But over the few years, people started flittering in with some stories. We had enough to do one. But ultimately, I think a lot of it was just Goatman stories that happened to be around December, which was a lot of what I got. And so I went through, and I didn't have a lot labeled as that. But, I'm not the only one that uses that email. So other people on my team were like, well, if you're going to do Krampus, let's look for some Krampus stories. But they didn't necessarily label them Krampus. So I said,
right. It's just Goatman during Christmas, right?
I said Goatman December. When I typed that in, we got a bunch of hits. And I was like, holy crap. So it does seem to me, though, December is a hotbed for Dogman activity, too, because the flap that happened when I saw what I saw in my hometown and the area around it, it started in late September and it went until like the end of December, because one of the people in my book was a guy named Phil Balcar. And it's interesting. We were talking about him yesterday because Tony stayed at his house for about 4 months. He stayed there through October. Well, part of September, October, November, December, and January. So he stayed there for a few months, and we were in that house a few times because when we moved, before we bought the other house right around Thanksgiving, we were living out at the ranch, but Tony had to work at night here in town, at least 5 to 6 nights a week. So he's like, it doesn't make sense for me to drive back out to the ranch every night. So mostly he stayed at that house. Every now and then he'd go out to the ranch. And then when we bought the new house, he was there to get deliveries and stuff. So he was spending the night there, but we were renovating. So he was staying at that guy's house. Now, here's what's interesting. Phil, I didn't know this, unbeknownst to me. A friend of mine used to own a gun shop who retired from there. His name was Sean, and I used to hang out with him when I was a kid. Our parents were friends and everything, and they grew up together. And he was telling me about him and his friend Sean that used to go to the school in the town over from me in Hutto. I went to Taylor. And he was like, and I thought Sean, and then eventually he said Winkleman, and I said, I know Sean. You know, I was like, I grew up with him. And he told me, he says, yeah, I saw this werewolf-looking creature with Sean, and it was right outside in between Taylor and Hutto. Well, that's where my uncle's farm is. It's 100 acres. And it turns out where they saw this creature is right down the road from that farm where I grew up, you know, running around out there. And small world, this guy was working on my cell phones for my company. And I said, you know, that's weird that you had that experience. You know, and we started talking, and then we just kind of became friends. And I was introduced to him by another person, you know, a mutual friend. And we had that friend in common too. Well, he was really kind to us. And during all this craziness, renovation, whatever, he let us use his house. Well, my wife noticed that there was something in there. She stayed there one night to do the laundry while me and Anthony went and did the patrol. And so with me driving and him jumping out, it goes a lot quicker and we could get back and pick her up. And so I said, look, we'll go do the patrol. You stay and do the laundry and we'll get done quicker or whatever. So she was there. And of course, something starts happening. He starts hearing noises and eventually she sees something. Well, Tony didn't talk about anything until he was completely moved out, back out of there. But last night we were doing the patrol, me and Tony, and Anthony, my wife, had a bunch of stuff to do at the new house because we're just slammed with stuff, which is also why I haven't been able to get back with you, Jason. I'm sorry about that.
It's all right, man. I totally
You and Abe trying to coordinate everything. It's hard enough trying to get mine. I'm just, you know, it's a mess.
Yeah.
So, anyway, last night me and Tony were talking, and he went by Phil's to get a bunch of his stuff. Now, I don't know if it was a coincidence or not, but he left the door open. And I said, you know, when he came back, I said, you left the door open when you were getting your stuff. He said, oh, well, that's so I could get it out, whatever, quick, you know, easier, whatever. And I said, well, yeah, but I said, something, you know, did something happen, you know, in there? I mean, like, and so he went through this whole stuff that went on, and he didn't talk about it until he got all this stuff out of there. That's kind of how we were with the house we used to live in.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about everything until we got everything out of there.
Yeah.
Because it's like it knows, you know, it's got a consciousness.
No, totally.
It does.
If you talk about it, it'll get worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then when you talk about it,
you think about it, it feels like it's right behind you.
Mm-hmm. That's what happened to him. That's exactly what happened to him. He was sitting outside on I'm not going to tell a whole bunch of stuff here, but he was sitting outside and he heard a voice talking behind him coming out of one of that spare bedrooms. And he was like, what the hell is that? And so it was adjacent to the bedroom he was in, but he was kind of like in this open loft area. And then there was like this back door where he would sit with his back to the window. And he said one day he heard voices and he turned around and he saw, this is weird. It looked almost like a person covered in a sheet and they ducked behind some furniture. And he was like, what the hell is that?
Wow.
So he started having all these weird experiences there. And of course, Anthony was in there one time and my wife, and we were all in there. And I had to take a shower and we were in Austin and I didn't want to have to come all the way up here. So I just said, let me just go by Phil's. I'll shower up and we'll go meet these people for dinner because we were there in Round Rock. And so I got in the shower and I heard something in one of the spare bedrooms fall. And then like I heard a voice that sounded like almost like a female's voice, which is really weird. And so when I talked to Phil about it, and Phil was like, well, I hadn't really seen anything, but I heard some stuff in there, but he's not staying there. He's staying at his fiance's up the road. And so he's just got a bunch of stuff in there, like we used to work on cars and stuff like that. And so he's really a mechanically inclined guy. And I told him, I said, you know, the fact that this stuff is there and it's very palpable, it could be still connected to what you saw when you were young, when you were in high school. And he didn't know about that. And I said, well, maybe, maybe not. But the fact is, these things, they can appear and be different types of beings, you know, but it's still the same source, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because, I mean, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to say, it reminds me of what I always find the connections very similar to is people that are alien abductees and the things, the way that they would be taken with screen memories, that these things would come to them in different forms, not looking like a gray alien, come to look at them like come as a clown or come as a big teddy bear or things that entice children to come to, they could shapeshift and change to whatever they wanted to draw you in.
Yeah, I covered a case one time, and I can't remember what state it was in. I don't think it was Texas. I think it was like Illinois or something like that, Indiana. But I was up there, your neck of the woods, I think, Jason.
Yeah.
And it was somewhere like that in the heartland. And I remember them talking about this imp-like creature. It was kind of akin to like a goblin-looking thing. And they started seeing this creature like in the corner of their eye, and then it became a little more pronounced. And ultimately, they started seeing like this dogman-looking creature, like a werewolf. And that was originally how they contacted me. And I just always tell people the same thing. If you ever talk to somebody I've interviewed, and I've interviewed a lot, I'll just tell them the same thing. Start from the beginning. And they'll go back, because first they'll email me. The guy from Turkey, he did. Well, he's not from Turkey, but he's from Syria. But he emailed me what happened to him in Turkey. It started out with these two werewolf-looking creatures. But what I found out was like that was toward the beginning of the end. There was a whole litany of things that went on before that that led to those creatures being seen and chasing after the vehicle. He didn't know if it was all connected, but I did. And I said, look, there's something that goes on prior to all this crap before these demonic werewolves show themselves.
Yeah.
And that was no different with that story in Indiana. The lady had said that, oh, well, okay. She's like, it started with this goblin-looking creature. And then they found what looked like this waxy slime that it was like real high up, and it looked like something had walked out of it, like it was a shell. It was so bizarre. And then when they touched it, it just began to dissolve, and it turned into what we would call ectoplasm. And I told him, I said, have you ever heard of the Jinn? I think that Fae, and I think that the all these creatures, they're all a version of that. They're a type of that.
All very similar. If you look at the Fae, it's a very similar concept of changing shapes and drawing, like what enticing people in.
Yeah. And they were saying that it would sometimes they think that it was two different things, but it might have been the same thing. And I said, what if that creature that you were seeing was shape-shifting and making itself into this werewolf-looking creature?
Right.
And one of the people that they were friends with had seen one of these creatures out in the wild, like a werewolf-looking being, in a national forest, in a state park. And they said, well, it doesn't look like that. I said, it doesn't necessarily have to.
Right.
It could be mimicking that, or it could literally be that. You don't know, because these beings take on what their forms, whatever forms they are. It's usually are that, but they'll change into something else.
I compare it to the Harry Potter Bogart, where they have it, it's in the, if you've seen the movies, at least, if read the books, they have the Bogart in the closet and the kids are lining up to see what it'll manifest as their fear, right? That idea of a Bogart, it's manifest. It can change its shape to your fear. It's something along those lines. I always find interesting with this, two cases, I've talked to you about this before, Josh, that are infamous or famous, is the Bell Witch and the Skinwalker Ranch. What I always find interesting is for the Bell Witch in the 1800s or wherever, late 1800s this took place, that started with the father and son out hunting on the property, and they saw a big black dog-like creature. That's how, and then all the craziness followed. For Skinwalker Ranch, it was a father and son on their ranch, and this dog-like creature came and attacked one of their cattle, was like trying to grab it by its leg and draw it out, or the pen or something like that, if I remember right. And then all the craziness followed. But both those cases started with seeing this beast in the field. And I always wonder, our primitive instincts, if these things are some kind of manifestation that feed off of our fear, our primal encounters with these things, if they were to manifest, would be as a beast-like creature. Where we encountered these as primitive people back in the day, if they existed with us since the beginning of time, the way they would feed off of people or manifest would probably be in a beast-like form. That's what you had to fear as a person in the wild in the more primitive times, And so I think it harkens back to this primitive fear of ours of a beast, whatever, and it draws upon that maybe to manifest, at least in its first form, and then other forms appear and craziness ensues.
Yeah,
because it's now gotten its juice from that original manifestation, from the fear.
He just doesn't. Yeah, it's got the fear factor. Then it's got the belief factor.
And the belief factor, right?
If you start believing that it's something real, That's a spiritual opening. That's why I say you have to be very careful of what you give power to because it only needs a little opening to attack, man. You, that's why I always tell people if it's in doubt, test it in the spirit. Tie by and rebuke in Jesus Christ's name. If it disappears, it
Have you guys
leaves.
noticed all the werewolf movies lately?
Yeah. Werewolves, the Wolfman. Werewolves was actually pretty low budget, but it had some good special effects. We were kind of,
Yeah.
it was a fun
I haven't
movie.
seen it yet. I want to see it.
It's kind of scary. I mean, it really is because the thought of it. Because if you know, like we do, everybody in this panel, like we all know that this stuff is real. So when you watch the movie, you're kind of like, this is really unnerving because this could be like that could happen. Not like the way they have it in the movie. I don't think
Yeah.
that would happen, but this thing could come and stalk you. I mean, that's something that could happen, So like for me, it's different than an average person watches it. It's a fun thing. To me, it's like, yeah, it's fun, but it's also unnerving because
Yeah.
I've seen it, and
There's
it looks a lot like that.
The Beast with what's his name from Game of Thrones. That's one. The movie came out like a year or two ago. They got the Wolf. There's another one. That's what the Wolfman. I mean, there's like all these like in the last year or two, like a ton of werewolf movies. It seems like being in production or being produced.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they're recognizing the interest or they're trying to make the interest. I don't know. Like is there something happening?
Both.
Right.
Add more to it,
They're trying to get people to believe, these things do exist, but we have to protect our vessel. So we can't, even though they exist, doesn't mean we give them power of belief because that's how many people do we know that believe in Bigfoot?
Mm-hmm.
That they buy all kinds of stuff of Bigfoot, they decorate the homes of Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
You're giving it the power of belief, then that's a spiritual opening. I remember there was this woman that called me, this old lady called me, that she had seen a dog man in the woods looking at her, that it followed her home, right? So then she calls me like a day later and she says, Abe, the dog man is living in my living room. And I said, how does this dog man look like? Well, it's big and it's living in my living room now. It's just taking over my living
Sleeping
room.
on her couch or what's going on?
That's what she was saying. That's like, well, I believe, I said, I'm going to ask you, I said, were you afraid when you seen it? I said, yes. So, well, what you got is not a werewolf. It's a negative attachment that attaches itself to you because you were fearing it. Did you believe in what you were seeing? Yes, I believed it was a werewolf. Well, it attached itself to you when you came in your house. I asked her, did you do the sign of the cross and say nothing is allowed, anything negative or anything, a witness not to come to us? And no. So well, what you need to do is place some heavenly crosses on the doorways and windows. Take authority when it shows itself to you. Take authority over it and say, "Leave my house." But say it that you mean it without fear, without giving them belief. She did that, and she called me later on, and she said, "Thank you. I got rid of it. It's gone." But yeah, she believed what she's seen. Then it was messing around in her living room. It was taking over her living room. But that's what they do. If you give it the power, is
one of the
when
comments
people,
are.
yeah.
Go ahead. Now, Andres
Yeah.
Gonzalez, he says you have to also take into account that the being will look different to certain based on fear. Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a lot of good comments here. This guy here, Two Shadows, he's in my chat all the time. He says, I was ripped out of my body once. I was laying on my back
by
on
your
the ground
perceptions.
level wooden
I mean,
round
like
table.
your
I'm sorry, what?
I was trying to find that comment.
Yeah.
There it is.
And then he says, I was ripped out of my body. I was laying on my back on a ground level wooden table. There were several beings looking down at me, and they were wearing some kind of tribal masks. That's not uncommon for these beings to actually wear masks. Well, my cousin's son, which I guess technically would be my little cousin, but he's going through some stuff. And he's being seen. He's been seeing like these beings coming into his room, and they're wearing masks. And so he's asked his mom and dad, like in front of us too. He was like, "Were y'all wearing masks?" And they were like, "No."
Oh wow!
Yeah, and so I know that sometimes these beings will do that. They'll take on a shape or a form, and when you look at these creatures, they'll try to hide like their true form. They'll wear a mask, and if you come out of
Yeah,
your body, there's people who've claimed that. Even during DMT, they've
Yeah.
claimed to see things like it with
yeah.
masks.
I've seen one on the highway. It was me, my sister, and the girlfriend at the time. I was going back to South Texas. It was between San Antonio and Corpus. I was driving, and my sister, they were like dozing off in the back seat. My sister and my girlfriend was dozing off, and so I was driving. I seen this tall native wearing a mask on the side of the highway, and he had the feathers and everything, and he looked at me like that. It was huge, and I was like, "Is it my imagination?" So the next thing you know, in my back seat, my sister was behind my girlfriend, and there's something dark back there, right? Next thing you know, my sister's hitting the girlfriend in the back of the head like that, and she's looking at her like trying to figure out what's going on. My sister's acting weird. Then I'm like, start smelling like blood and something real nasty, and I start gagging. That I have to lower down the window, and I'm like coughing and
Like
coughing,
rotten
and
egg.
oh man, worse, like blood. I smell like blood, and I can't get my breath. So there was a rest area. We park in a rest area, and as my girlfriend and my sister got off, my sister is acting weird, and she's saying all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'm telling my sister, "I love you, sister. I love you." And using the love foundation, and my sister becomes better. Whatever it was there jumped into my girlfriend, and she starts acting weird, and she takes off running into the restroom, acting like it
Yeah.
literally took over her vessel or her body. And I'm telling my sister don't even know what happened to her. And I was telling her, look, something happened to you. It cut out of you. Now it's in her. And me, I'm just praying, protecting. It's like, I cannot go into the girls' restroom because it's a girls' restroom. So you're gonna have to go in there and get her out of there, but
Yeah.
use your love. So she went in there and use her love foundation and got her out of there. So they both don't know what happened to them, but whatever that was entered them, and I guess it tried to attack.
I've seen it happen to an
He had
investigator, a friend of
he
mine.
had one of those masks, man, like a weird mask, like a demon mask of some sort,
Yeah.
a wooden demon mask of some sort. But he was real tall. I would say that it had to be 8 to 9 foot tall. It was huge on the side of the highway.
And you wonder if it was again somebody like he wasn't physically there, but like somebody that's remotely attacking you with something like that.
Yeah,
You know,
it tried to attack me, but it attacked. It couldn't. No, I prayed against it. I was fighting the
Yeah, they'll
spiritual.
attack people around you.
Yeah, they attacked
yeah.
the people around
It
me.
seems like they can't hang on to people like I said, like it's the people are demonically inflicted, but it's like they can't totally get control of the person. It's fleeting. It's a walk-in moment. Like I said, I had that happen to an investigator on investigation, which is one of the most scariest times on an investigation I ever had. When I watched an investigator of mine like pause and not be able to move for way too long of a time, and then change her whole mindset, change and be real mean like she's never been, and then for her the next day be like, I don't remember what happened, like she doesn't even remember the stuff she said or did and doesn't remember the ride home. It scared me, like
Yeah,
that could happen.
they would not remember. It's like a possession. It's like somebody that's how should I say, sleepwalking. They're not going to remember. They're not going to
Yeah,
remember the events of what happened. They're going to lose a track of time because
I mean,
something had.
all these things, what I always say though is all these things, like you could take what somebody's experiencing under these conditions and apply it exactly to the same symptoms or same conditions people are facing under an alien abduction, missing time, these things manifesting the way that they do. It's very similar. And people have also gotten rid of made aliens go away by rebuking them in the name of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So some people claim they're all demons. I don't know.
It's kind of
But
like
there's
this.
a lot of similarities.
Like the people that God rest their souls, that get possessed, that they commit suicide. They don't know what they do because they're not in charge of their body. It's by the time you know it, it's too late. They're not here no more. So if
Look
anybody
at I
knows,
hate bringing this up, but I mean I've done it on the show and I'll do it again. Is I've
Yes.
had my wonders about the people that are these active shooters, the ones that don't end their lives, and when we're
Yeah.
able to talk to you afterwards, always have a lack of memory of what they did, and it
Yeah.
makes you wonder. It's not to take responsibility. They chose their path. They chose what to
Yeah,
do. Hey,
it's-
Rat
it's-
King, I gotta say hi to somebody out there from Romania. How you doing, Rat King? But it makes you wonder. I'm not trying to take personal responsibility from these people that made their choices to do these horrible, horrible things. They
some
made their
people don't-
choice, but
they don't remember.
there's something
They don't
else
remember
involved.
nothing. Yeah, they don't remember nothing. I've seen it where I was walking on the highway, and there was this man walking on the opposite side of the street from me, on the highway, the right side. So I'm going to the store. I was avoiding the woods where I had my, but I have so many stories. But I was walking on the highway, it's daytime, like around 5:30 in the afternoon. I see the man walking on the right side and he's nearing the bridge. Next thing I know, I see this man get elevated up in the air, like 7 foot up in the air. He gets dropped, slammed on the ground. He gets elevated again and slammed, elevated
like me.
again and slammed 3 times.
I was on my third one when I finally reached out to God.
No, I mean I'm talking about he got slammed on the highway
Oh my
3
God!
times.
Wow.
So I go up parallel to him, and I'm looking, and I said, "Sir, do you need any help?" He's not responding. So I'm walking, and I cross the highway to the middle of the bridge, and I say, "Sir, do you need any help?" I didn't want to leave him there because I
Right.
knew that an unseen force attacked him. So the man gets up real slowly. He's stumbling towards me, and I said, "Sir, do you need help?" And he's like 6 foot 6 feet away from me. He looks at me, and his eyes look like kind of reddish, but I don't know if it's because he got slammed 3 times, and he looks at me.
Right.
And this is what he tells me when I tell him, "Sir, do you need help?" He says, "Next time I see you, I'm gonna kill you." And then I ignored him because I knew that an unseen force, right? It becomes part of the spiritual warfare.
Right.
I said, "Sir, come on, sir. I keep my love foundation." I said, "Come on, sir. Let me help you. Let me help you. Let's go over there across the street. The store's over there." And he keeps on repeating himself. "Next time I see you, I'm gonna kill you." So I'm not giving him power. I'm not getting mad. I'm staying calm, relaxed, and I keep on talking to him because whatever has his body, right, or that vessel, control of the vessel, can jump in front of a vehicle, and that's it for that guy. So I'm
Right.
trying to get him to safety. If I would have left
Right.
him there, it could have probably dragged him, just like it elevated him. It could have dragged him.
If they can
into
do
the
that,
mud.
you can throw them in front of a car,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, no problem.
So I keep on using my love foundation, and whatever has control of him is pissed off because I'm not letting loose off of him. I got him with me using my love foundation. "Come on, sir." And he's following me, and we make it all the way to the Family Dollar that's right there in the corner. I walk in and I tell him, "Wait for me right here by the register." And as I'm getting some water, I'm praying over the water, blessing the water. The man asked the girl, "What's your name?" She said her name. And then he tells her, "Next time I see you, I'm going to kill you," which is because he's got the negative attachment on him. He's saying the same thing over and over. So she screams and she starts calling I guess the 911. I said,
Right.
"No, no, 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 no. I found him on the bridge. You don't know what he's saying." So here you go, sir. Here's some water. I open it up. He grabs the water and he drinks it. Now, like I said, I pray for it to be blessed. He drinks the water. Next thing you know, he's back to normal. Like he's talking like, "Hey, thank you for the water, buddy." And he don't even remember
What he
what
was
happened to
saying.
him. Not even that. He don't remember what happened on the bridge when he got picked up or slammed. He don't remember walking from the bridge to the store. That's a good 100 feet, 150 feet.
Yeah.
He don't remember nothing. And then I asked him a question. I said, "Sir, where are you coming from?" He said, "Well, my truck ran out of gas. I was walking back home to get my gas tank, and I was pissed off because I normally keep the gas tank in my vehicle. So the spiritual opening that he had, that he was pissed off walking home to get the gas tank, and the unclean or unseen force used that because he was mad and attacked him. I'm
And I
telling
think what
you,
it does is to
be
some
very
kid out
careful.
there, right?
You gotta be very careful when it comes to spiritual warfare. You
Well,
gotta be
the
ready. Yeah.
we have a lot of mental illness in this country, but we have a lot of drug addiction, and at the same time, we also have SRI being prescribed out like candy to these young teenagers. And I'm not saying all these drugs are bad; they can help people, antipsychotics and these things. But I swear there's something going on here that's opening. These SRIs are opening up some of these young people to something like this. It's opening up the doorway.
Well, yeah, well, all that is spiritual openings, whether it's drugs, whether it's beer, liquor, living in sin, porn, you name it. Those
Oh
are
yeah,
spiritual
porn's another
openings.
one. I've seen it. I've
It'll
seen it.
use that as a spiritual open to attack. A lot of
We might sound like
people.
fuddy duddies, don't do the porn. But I'm just saying, I've seen it wreck people. It
Anything that
changes their mind.
weakens you.
A lot of those people that are bonded, they're being bonded.
People
By the
think
demons.
smoking marijuana is pretty benign too, and I know a lot of people who smoke, but they don't smoke it a copious amounts. But those that smoke a copious amount,
I
or they
don't
do
smoke
it for,
copious amounts, but
if you smoke copious amounts over long periods of time, it will affect you.
I
It
agree.
really will.
Well, no, it's not just that. Like these kids that are with SRIs, a lot of times they end up smoking pot with it, and that can cause a psychotic break. The combination of the two. There's people that are that no SRIs involved, just are not. They'll smoke marijuana and have a flip out. There's a small percentage of people that they do not give a right mixture with THC, and it can do things. But it's just like alcohol. If you do it over moderation, if you have to have it, if it's an addiction or a crutch. I have psoriatic arthritis. For me, it's sleeping at night and trying to fix this neck issue I have, and it helps with the inflammation. But if you do it like all the time and you have to have it and you're constantly stoned, which I don't get,
Like if you're sick, if you're run down, if you're
that's a
constantly
doorway.
drunk, it's like a wormhole on your security system on the computer. They just can come right in and take advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Get
can
you
afford to
stay
be
up and get you
stoned or
tired.
drunk because they're always around. It's like I can even go for a freaking walk and for exercise without them surfacing up because they move very fast with the elements. They're like, and you want to call them like elementals. It's all of the same thing. They can move like air. They can move like smoke. But they try to attack me all the time. Every time I go for a walk, they surface up and it triggers my senses, and I go into prayer. There's times that I go walking and then it feels like I'm carrying 2 or 3 people on my shoulders because they're trying to attach themselves to me spiritually. So I have to pray against them.
One of the things that Abe, what he's talking about along those lines, they are the same, but they're different. Like we're all humans, we're all people, but we're different. We look different. We have different traits, different likes and dislikes. We're not all the same. We get along, but they do the same thing. They're not all the same, but they are all the same, bloodline, and they get along to a degree to do mischief. But they're just as likely to attack one another as they are to attack you. And some of these people that do these healings and stuff, they're actually using larger demons to get rid of these smaller demons. And I had this one lady offer to do a cleanse for me. It was some girl that I knew way back, and she was calling on some weird names and stuff. And I said, "What is this? This isn't Jesus. This isn't God. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm not down with this." Thank you. I'm not down with this name that she was using. I'm not going to repeat it because when I was telling somebody the story about it, something fell off my wall. Well, it kind of moved off the wall. My brother's talked about it. He's actually writing it in the book. He was just talking about it the other day. And I thought that's really weird, because we were talking about that being and it came off the wall. And this girl that was doing this cleanse is somebody he used to date. And so he was really into this girl, and I thought she was kind of weird. But then she started talking about God, and I thought, okay. But she never mentioned Christ. She just said God. But what is God to someone? Some of these people will come out when an award ceremony. I'd like to thank God. Their God is not your God. Their God is like Moloch.
While they're doing.
Yeah, while they're doing their yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
All the
it's like
symbolism
God.
and stuff, and they're talking about God.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
There's so
the
many
walk of
people.
sin, the walk of sin.
Or they're like, yeah.
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 So many people go to these retreats and they go to these healings and they do these rituals without even asking, what are we doing? What am
Where's
I
it coming from?
drinking? What are you chanting? What are you having me
Yeah.
chant? What is this that you're bathing me in? And they just openly go in and participate in these rituals.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love,
That's
more
why I
and
don't
more
listen
people
to music.
spiritual, but come on.
I don't listen to the music or words or none of that stuff because they have a lot of
Stuff in the
Illuminati things.
background.
I don't mess with
And
that.
like, if you don't want us to believe you're all Satanists in Hollywood, you're not doing a great job of it half the time at your
Yeah.
award ceremonies.
Stop
Yeah.
doing the symbolisms all the time.
Yeah,
And then
the symbolism,
They tell us too that we don't see what we see. Like they're always like, oh, it's like on South Park. It's like, nah, dude. Like I totally saw what you just did, and they want you to not see it, or to say that it wasn't what you thought it was, that it was benign. And I'm
Ultimate
constantly,
gaslighting.
yeah, they gaslight you. And, I was talking about it in sports the other day. Like what it has to do with everything is like they condition you when you're young. Oh, that team didn't get the first down. Why? Because I said so, and I'm the authority. So you call the police. Hey, I had this happen, and then the police tell them, well, you didn't see what you saw. I'm the authority. And then you just become used to accepting that
Respect my authority.
Yeah, you have to accept it, and
Why?
you
Why?
take, yeah.
But why, kid? I never took because I said so as any sort of explanation. Acceptable.
Well, that's kind of how COVID worked.
Yeah, or didn't work. I mean, that's
Well, that's what I'm saying.
The referees didn't have to help the Chiefs today.
Yeah,
Yesterday.
They didn't do a very good job. Yeah, I was going to say this: these beings, though, like I think it's territorial too, in the way that like there's different beings in different areas. Like in the Levant, they know them as the jinn, and they've always called them the jinn. It predates Islam by thousands of years. The Zoroastrians, even, they had their own version of it. And there's all these other beings that they talk about, and we talk about the fae and the fairies. We talk about goblins and elves and all this, but the fairies, they have the Seelie court and the unseelie court. You have the good ones and the bad ones, and then you have the jinn, who can be evil, good, or neutral, or not give a crap. It's just whatever. But the fact of the matter is that they are different, though. The ones in the desert are really actually different than the ones that live in the forest. The ones in the desert will appear as a whirlwind, or like a dervish, as they call it, whereas the ones in the forest will appear as like a log or flowers or whatever. I've had people tell me some crazy experiences they've had with the red caps, and that they're different. They have other ones that have like these little white caps, and they're different. They look different. They talk different. They do different things, and they're triggered by different things. And so it's the same with humans. You can go to Saudi Arabia and deal with a bunch of shitheads, or you can go to Israel and deal with a bunch of shitheads, or you can go to Germany and deal with a bunch of shit. It just depends on what country you go to. You could go to China or Taiwan. It doesn't matter. There's going to be good people and bad people, but overall, there's going to be a prevailing theme to those countries. That's kind of how it is, whatever territory you're in. In China, you have to deal with the Jianjing. You have these very powerful
dragon families,
the dragon beings, yeah. And then you have the hopping ghosts. You go to Hong Kong. When I was in Hong Kong as a young man,
They talk about the hopping vampire or
A
something like
hopping
that.
vampire, yeah, and they talk about it. One of my friends who's a kickboxer. I have a lot of kickboxing, jiu-jitsu friends all over the world. They train everywhere. A bunch of them are living in, I say Siam, Thailand now, which was Siam at one time. But those beings that are there, they're actually different than other places. They have their own demons. That's what they are.
Right.
But they operate differently. They have their own system, just like people do.
Yeah,
And
that's where one of the apostles got demonized when he was told not to go there.
well, when you look at these different places, and you look at where they go, where they are, what they've done, they will attach to people. They'll bring them back from other places, and you'll notice like a profound difference between the locals and that one. You'll notice it if you're in tune. One of the things I learned years ago, because Tony's mother's actually Vietnamese, and she's told me about how the spirits are different over there in Vietnam than they are here. They act differently, they behave differently, they operate differently. It's the same, but it's different. And you have their own like special like entities. You know, I had a friend who's a kickboxer over there in Hong Kong, and he was telling me about one of these hopping ghost vampires that affected his grandfather. And so he told me the whole story, and I went and I retold the story. But it is a profound difference from place to place. If you go to the Philippines, there is a creature called the Oswing. And the
Yep.
Oswing is very vile. It's very evil, and I believe it's real. There have been soldiers who've been attacked over there. My cousin believed in it. He was in the Marines. And I've had lots of Marines tell me over the years that they were affected by this. And in Okinawa, the Kitsune. You know, these are all demons, but they do different things and they operate differently. In Malaysia, one of my friends, they dealt with these water demons. They called Kurka, sort of like the Kappas of Japan. You have these different types of the Oni that dwell in the forest. They're like the forest giants, you know. They're all different, but they're all still part of that sub-natured class, you know. And you have elementals, things that look like fire, or they're a wind, or they're a water, you know. The sylphs, you know. You have all these different types,
Some
and
they
there's
look like mud creatures.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that were
They're from the earth.
created when they was trying to create the perfect human being that they were created before man. They
Yeah, well,
still
there was a
around.
race of beings called the Shan before the Jinn. When you look at this bevy of creatures, there's so many different kinds. It's hard to say what they are, what they were, or what stage of the world they came from, because they could have been here a long time before we were. And I look at these different creatures, and I'm not really, I'm ambivalent toward most of it. I don't really care as long as it doesn't mess with me. But it does help to know what you're dealing with, you know. And they don't all answer to the same. Like people like to say, well, the devil controls all of them. Not really. If he's in their presence, he might be able to bully them into submission. But that, you know, whoever the top guy is, but
They
that
have their own
doesn't mean-
agendas.
They all have their own agendas. Yeah.
Well, well, back to, because we're going to end soon, but like the Malachi Martin interview is what I also found interesting in that about the perfectly possessed, is that these people run through the family lines, these perfectly possessed, generational, right? But that these families have what they'll call an ancestral spirit of the home, or a familiar of the family. Like they give it a name, like the family, these powerful families. We're talking like, he's talking like New England colonists, like first 13 colonies families, you know, the Mayflower families, stuff like that, or where this is prevalent, have passed this down as a secret in the family, that this is our familiar spirit, protects our family. But it's really a demon. And it inhabits one child to the next grandchild to the next child. That it's in a sense inhabiting the perfect vessels that are being bred for it, basically, to inhabit that family line. And that's why bloodlines have mattered so much to royals and everything else, is that they have to keep the bloodline pure enough for this spirit to inhabit that one of their offspring. It's like purposeful generational possession.
Yes, they jump from generation to generation. Like if somebody's dabbling in something, or they made a deal with something, that person, if they're like a grandmother or a grandfather, that's their bloodline, and they're trying to buy more time.
I knew a girl that did that, had that in their family, that every woman in the family would be visited by an old crone-looking witch woman that would visit them, usually around their puberty year, when they would, hit puberty, and it would terrify every single woman in that family at some point. They'd have to be a visit. But
I got
it's
some
like
stories for
generational.
you, some more stories for y'all. We doing another one another time.
We got
Yeah.
to. We got to.
Abe's got a
Definitely.
lot of stuff, man, because he's got that ojo dotado, as we call it in Spanish.
We talked so
It
much, I
is,
don't think
man.
anybody wanted to call in because they didn't want to interrupt us, right?
Yeah, you got a
Nobody
pretty
called
good
in.
crowd tonight, man.
I
What'd
want to
you
say
get
thank
in
you
there?
for those that are tuning in here.
153 people.
Yeah.
Pretty good
Yeah.
crowd, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
and Abe always brings his A game. Next week we'll have Tex come on. Tex.
Is that what we're going to
Force.
try, Tex?
Yeah. We'll bring
Yeah.
Tex on, and then the week after we'll do BMR, Big Michigan Rob.
Give me Tex so I can get him, and
I'll have
gonna
his
get,
email
so
for you. He's
'cause
ready.
I felt bad for Abe tonight. We got to, Josh, you've been busy. I thank you so much for getting him, but I didn't get any of your information here. I know we shared the links and the
Yeah.
timeline, and all that. But your YouTube channel is Spiritual Encrypted Encounters, correct?
Yes.
So everybody definitely go check out,
And
subscribe.
I got your TikToks under Abe CS 895.
Yeah, and Under Fire made a point too. He said that James Bartley would be another guest. James is really good. I'm going to have him on.
I need him. I'm all open. Every Sunday's open except for March 16th for Paul Wallace, because that's when his
Yeah.
book comes out.
So we'll
And
have him come on too.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this tonight, Josh and Abe, for doing this last minute. You've been amazing guests. We're definitely there's so much more I know we didn't get to cover tonight. We're definitely gonna
You have to bring Abe back on. You got to get his cousin on too to tell the werewolf encounter he had at the gin.
Oh,
the
yeah.
cotton gin.
At a gym?
That one is at the gin, a cotton gin.
Oh, gin. Oh, cotton.
Never heard of one
Well,
at
I
a
guess
gym,
it's
but that'd be
going
interesting.
Gym. I was
Yeah, I
like, you
guess
came there
it's
for a
going to the
workout.
gym
I work out the
when I
gym all
was-
the time, but I've seen some people with hairy backs. I can tell you
When
that.
I was in Saudi Arabia, when I was out there in operation there, so I got some the gen stories.
I'd love to
for
talk to you about what's out in
Oh, yeah,
Saudi
I've heard it.
Arabia.
I've heard his stories. They're pretty good, man.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to get some stories about that. Well, thank you guys so much for doing this, Josh. Thank you for arranging this, Abe. Thank you so much. Last minute, I want to say thank you to Josh. Thank you for the $20 donation. James for a $10 donation tonight. Thank you so much. And then Summerside, $20 donation, and our first YouTube member.
right.
I'm curious, Summerside, are you do you have what I found out from one of my people real quick before I go? I want to just find this out. She was trying to sign up for a membership. Do you have to be a YouTube Premium member to be a member of a YouTube channel for the membership?
I don't think so.
That's what I thought. 'Cause she's like, well, I have to sign up for the YouTube Premium to be a member. I'm like, really? I didn't think that was the case.
Yeah.
So I was wondering about that. I don't know if Summerside, are you a YouTube Premium member? I'm curious because I'd like to know for people signing up. So Anthony says, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
Okay.
I'll
So
tell you what you gotta
Ariana,
do.
if you're listening, they say you don't. I don't know what I'll have to look
Yeah.
into how you sign up, how that works.
What we got to do too, and I got to get this done. I got to go up
he
there
says
this
no.
week because I got to drop off a bunch of uniforms for work. I want you guys to give me your logos so I can put you in our catalog. And so when people go to, because there's going to be like maybe a dozen different podcasters, YouTubers, and it's not going to make me any money. I'm not trying to make anything off of it, but it could help you guys out. At least you're not going to, blow away the world with merchandise, but it'll get
No,
your
that's why I've
logo.
never started a merch line. I've had people
Well,
ask,
all
can I
you
get a
gotta do
Paranormal
is-
Soup T-shirt? And I'm like, I don't have anything.
You can, and it's very easy because I'm going to have the catalog, and it's going to
Yeah,
be on
definitely.
the same deal. Like you'll go through our products, and then you can go to like Abe Sias if you want to do like Spiritual Encrypted Encounters, a logo. I got a lot of artists. Somebody can make one up for you, and then you could sell that shirt, and they'll just sell it, and they'll ship it off, and then you'll get your cut, and then they get theirs, and it goes through like a third party, like where you get your money. And so that's how we're going to start doing it because Printful has really not been good for us. We haven't, I guess other people have had experiences with them, but mine have been it's been negative recently. And it's not working. So we're going to 7 Clay. And so you can get your logo out there, Jason, and they can, because when people
Well,
see
I've
your
always wanted.
shirt,
I got a great logo thanks to an old friend of mine, Bill, that made that logo
Yeah.
for my description. He's like, what do you want for a logo? And I said, I want a ghost, a Bigfoot, and a alien in a soup bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And he made that logo, and it looks amazing. I'd love to put. I had one fan years ago try to make shirts, but it never panned out. And I've had people ask me, and I'm like, I just don't feel like I have a big enough base to like try to make some deal to make shirts or do anything.
All you got to do is send me the logo, man, and I'll have it plugged in.
I want to buy a shirt. I'd like to have a Paranormal Soup shirt.
I'll get you some.
I don't even have one.
Abe. Yeah, I'll get you some made, guys. And,
that's awesome.
They'll do some runs on there, and they'll send it to you. So yeah, I'll have some made for you guys, man.
Yeah, I'd buy some to give away on the show too, because I've never done giveaways. I'm the worst host ever. I don't have any of that stuff, and I'd love to have some to do for giveaways. I want to thank. Yeah.
And Abe, you got to get your channel set up to where you can get donations too. You need to get,
yeah.
Well, I just do it for I have a story of why I kind of don't want to do donations because of something that happened a long time ago. Is dealing with a Ouija board.
Wow.
See, another story. We're gonna have to, Abe.
We're gonna have to come back.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you. You just tell me right now. I'm open book. You just shoot me a message. You pick a Sunday wherever next you want to come on.
Just let me know.
You give me the date, and I'll put you on for it.
Man. If you ever
all right,
need
man.
somebody to fill in, let me know. I'll do it.
No, you were great. You were great tonight. I was a little worried last minute. Josh was like, I got him. I'm like, oh, I don't know anything about him. I hope this is going to be good. I don't know what to talk about. And he kind of mentioned a little bit of your experience. So I'm like, it should be good. It should be. I knew it would be good because you're bringing him here. So I was like, I don't know. I usually do all this prep before a guest comes on. And I had nothing, but you blew me away. You were incredible. We're going to have to get you back on. That's it for the show, though. I got to be up in about 5 hours.
Yep.
Everybody, have a great night. Don't forget to check out Spiritual.
Abe, are you going
Spiritual
on?
Encrypted Encounters. Check it out.
Are
you going to say, Josh?
Abe, are you going on?
I might. I don't know yet. I might.
All right, well, check it out if you do. If you follow and subscribe, Abe, if you follow Spiritual Encrypted Encounters, you'll know when he goes live. So check it out. Thank you, Abe. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you to the donations tonight from, we got to get James and Summerside and Josh. Thank you so much. And Summerside, now you're the first member of our YouTube membership, so thank you. Everybody, have a great night. See you next Sunday.